David's just waiting to give us the go-ahead.
You are all set to begin.
Okay. Wednesday, November 8th, 2023, Zoning Board of Appeals meeting is now underway. 12 persons interested in or affected by the actions of the Zoning Board of Appeals. You are hereby notified pursuant to Section 11 of Chapter 48 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and all amendments thereto, that a public hearing on the following appeals will be held on Wednesday, November 8th, 2023, at the time indicated. The Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing will be held by remote participation methods. Public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. The meeting will be televised live via Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may be accessed via Government Access Channel live stream on the Town of Barnstable website. http:// streaming85.townofbarnstable.us/cablecast public site no spaces /watch/1 excuse me. The meeting will be held. Okay. Real-time access to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting is available utilizing the Zoom link or telephone number and meeting ID provided below. Public comment can be addressed to the Zoning Board of Appeals by utilizing the Zoom link or telephone number and public ID provided below. To join the Zoom meeting option on your computer, https://dash/us.zoom.us/851-569-75264 or by telephone US toll-free 888-475-4499. Meeting ID is 851-5697-5264. Applicants, the representatives, and individuals required or entitled to appear before the Zoning Board of Appeals may appear remotely and may participate through accessing the link or telephone number provided above. Documentary exhibits. I'm reading faster than my brain is processing, sorry. Documentary exhibits and or visual presentations should be submitted in advance of the meeting to anna.brigham@town.barnstable.ma.us so they may be displayed for remote public access viewing. Copies of the applications are available for review by calling 508-862-4682 or emailing anna.brigham@town.barnstable.ma.us. Now we'll have a call to order. Jacob Dewey's not here. For Bodenseek, I am present. Paul Pennard.
Present.
Mark Hansen.
Present.
Aaron Webb.
Present.
Denise Johnson.
Present.
Larry Hurwitz, I believe, is not in today. True. Okay, and Manny Elves.
Present.
Okay. Okay, the first appeal is Old Business Appeal 2023.
The notice of recording.
Okay, call to order and introduction of board members, which I did.
Yes.
Notice of recording. Notice of recording. This meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with MGL Chapter 38, subparagraph 20. I must inquire whether anyone is recording this meeting, and if so, please make their presence known. Is anyone recording this? All right. We have meeting minutes to approve. Did anyone have any issues or questions about the minutes?
Make a motion to approve September 27th, 2023 and October 11th, 2023.
This is Paul, I second.
Thank you. I wish I could say all in favor, but I will first go through. Herbert Bodenseek, I'm in favor. Paul Pinard,
In favor?
Mark Hansen,
In favor.
Aaron Webb,
In favor.
Johnson,
In favor.
and many else.
In favor.
And that is for both minutes. Okay, so back to old business. The first appeal is 2023-014. Ernest J. Jackstimer has filed an appeal of an administrative official's decision in accordance with Barnstable zoning ordinance section 240-125B.1a and MGL chapter 40A, section 8 and section 15. The petitioner seeks to overturn the notice of zoning ordinance violation in order to cease and desist and abate immediately from the building commissioner dated May 6, 2023. Summary violations determined by the building commissioner include Barnstable zoning ordinance is Article 2, general provisions, section 240-7A, 240-10A, Article 3, district regulation, sections 240-14A1, Article 9, site plan review, sections 240-100A, 240-101B, 240-103B, 240-103C, 240-103K, and 240-105G. The subject properties are located at 140 Osterville, West Barnstable Road, as shown on Assessor's Map 127, as parcel 007, 001, and 1450 Osterville, West Barnstable Road. Number A, as shown on Assessor's Map 127, as parcel 036. Both properties are located in Residence F RF zoning district. Continued from July 26, 2023 and September 13, 2023. The board is in receipt of a request dated November 2nd, 2023 to continue to January 24th, 2024. Do I hear a motion to continue?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. In favor, Herb Bodenseek. In favor, Paul Pinard.
In favor?
Mark Hansen.
In favor.
Aaron Webb.
In favor.
Denise Johnson.
Denise.
Was that you, Denise? I can't hear you, Denise. Sorry.
Denise, you're muted, Denise.
I think since everyone, including Manny, I assume.
In favor.
Oh, she's frozen. Yeah.
So I think we're okay without Denise. Okay, so appeal number 2023-014 will be continued to
Okay.
January 24th, 2024.
I had a question about, I'm in favor, but I had a question whether this meeting's going to be in person.
It's not on the schedule as in person as of now, correct, Anna?
Correct. I think it should be. I think there's a lot of public interest in this and that we should have a meeting. And I also think reading the intricacies of the drive-in and how many cars it holds and everything else.
No.
Denise, we haven't gotten there yet. You're ahead of the game here.
Yeah, this is 014.
Oh, this is the old Jackheimer? Oh, sorry. I thought you were already down there. I'm confused. I'm trying to keep these dogs from barking. Okay. So, yes, I'm in favor of the postponement.
Okay. Further old business appeal number 2023-010, Arista Hyannis LLC has applied for a special permit in accordance with section 240-25B22 and 240-25C10 drive-through for a proposed restaurant. The applicant proposes to remodel the former bank building and change the use to a food service establishment with a drive-through. The subject property is located at 715 West Main Street, Hyannis, Mass. as shown on Assessor's Map 249 as parcel 155. It is located in the Hyannis Business HB District, continued from May 10th, 2023, and July 26, 2023, and September 13th, 2023. Members assigned were Jake Dewey, Paul Pinard, Mark Hansen, Aaron Webb, and Herb Bonesig. This item is on the agenda for the purpose of another request for a continuance to a date certain. The board is in receipt of a request dated November 2nd, 2023, to continue to January 10th, 2024. Before I ask for a roll call, do we know that January 10th is going to be in person?
It will not.
That's what I thought.
Is
Why
Attorney
aren't-
Fox here to speak to this or no?
Yeah, I am, Mr. Chairman, I am on this Zoom. Liza Cox on behalf of the applicant.
Thought I saw you there.
Thanks.
Well, why aren't either of these meetings being held in person?
Is there a, yes, Denise, you're asking why it can't be held in person?
Why aren't we having two boards back to back? Why aren't we having them in person?
Can Anna answer that question? Or maybe Jim, but Anna?
There's a conflict with location and also board members able to be present.
Who's taking precedence to use the meeting room on both those days?
School committee.
What committee?
School committee.
Well, then,
Okay, so again, I hate to interrupt, but would the applicant be upset if we moved it to February at this point?
So if you'd like me to respond, Mr. Chairman, as the board will recall, the reason for this continuance or all of these continuances to date is waiting for the peer review report to be completed. It is now completed. It was issued on November 1st. I think it's hopefully been distributed to all the board members. At the last meeting, I know the board expressed a preference for an in-person, and that had been the applicant's preference as well. And we did try to work with your staff to see if we could find an in-person either in this month or next month or January. And as a result of meeting rooms, travel schedules, and the like, we were told that wasn't going to be possible. The board has 5 remote hearings in a row. So your first in-person meeting, at least as of right now, is not until February 28th, which is 3.5 months from now. Quite frankly, we'd like to move forward more quickly than wait an additional 3.5 months.
well, then I think we should make more of an effort to have a room available, because I think the ZBA is an important committee, and I don't understand our constantly saying we can't get a room.
There just is not that at this time, though. I really,
What?
we've checked it. We really did try to find something, I believe.
I know, but we're on the docket every other Wednesday, and we're supposed to be having one in every 3 or 4 meetings in person. And somehow somebody else is getting on the docket to use the room we use. So why is that happening, and why can't we remedy that? I mean, this particular case, I've had lots of people calling and writing me, and I think there's a lot of public interest in it. And I also find it very difficult to look at the sketches of the driveways and all that stuff over a Zoom call.
I mean, at some point, and I don't know the legalities of this, but at some point, the petitioner is going to point to that we are not able to make a decision on this. And I don't want to get caught with this. I really think we should just hear it at the next available meeting for
You don't think we
that's
should
just my own. That's my
Well,
own.
Mark, do you not think we should ask the staff to make more of an effort to find us a meeting room? That
I
we can
think they have been trying. I mean, if we've been involved, they really have been attempting. We've talked about it a couple of times. We've really looked at what our options are, and really our options are limited. And there's also the ability to change meetings in between. There's a lead time on that, if I'm correct in what Anna had explained, that we just can't change it to an in-person meeting.
Well, the schools committee has a regular slot on Wednesdays, so that we don't really have priority on Wednesdays.
I believe that was because of a holiday conflict. Being their first meeting would have been then the 3rd, I guess. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but as we're the 10th, then I would assume, does this sound right to you, Jim or Anna, that the school committee meets the first Wednesday?
I believe so. It happens every January.
Right.
They have the hearing room.
Okay, and since they have a pretty big turnout, they'll require the selectmen room, which is now.
The hearing room. Mm-hmm.
What if we just, if they're going to bump their scheduled meeting because of a holiday, then we need to bump ours in order to get, or does that end up with another conflict the following
It
week?
ends up with conflicts. We've looked at everything.
Okay, and the charter
I guess-
requires that we hold our meetings on Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay, Aaron?
I guess I'm just confused about the applicant being, requesting continuances now since I don't even remember. And yet now here we are stuck in this position where the applicant wanted to be in person. The public wants it in person. Board members want it in person. Again, the conflict is a conflict. We're not creating the conflict. So why can't the applicant wait until February 28th at this point? Again, we're not the ones responsible for these. Again, and I understand the applicant's not either. I'm not putting it solely on Eliza Cox and her group. That's not my point. But the factors are of what they are. We're doing the best we can for an in-person. You requested an in-person, so why can't we wait till February? We're talking about a month and a week and a half.
Well, respectfully, that's, oh, sorry, weird echo. 5 hearings and 3.5 months from now. And, we haven't been delaying this. We've been working diligently with your town staff and the peer review to try to get this report completed, which it is now. I think we'd like to move forward. We're ready to move forward. The reason for the continuance is now completed. And to have to wait an additional 3.5 months, it's that's a long time.
I agree. I agree. But it's been 3.5 months since when you first proposed, came to us. So again, I understand it's not on you and your group, but yet here we are in this position where, the public wants it in person. We should be I agree with Denise 100%. We should be in person full time at this point. I'm conflicted as to why that is.
Can we let Jim talk?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may make a recommendation. So the applicant is requesting a continuation to January 10th. If the board is willing to accept that continuation, I could certainly work with Anna and the team here to maybe look at some outside the box locations for in-person meeting in January, perhaps. And, we can re-engage that conversation January 10th with maybe some more unique ideas than just in town hall, perhaps, if the board is willing.
And Jim, question. I believe the board is also required to hear cases within a certain amount of time. And if we don't, then a decision may be defaulted that we don't have any voice in any longer.
That is my
right.
concern.
You do, and as of right now, the applicant has been working with this board to extend that time period. So it does need to be a mutual agreement. Otherwise, this board should render a decision in a timely manner if the applicant so chooses not to extend it further.
Mr. Chairman, could I just for a point of review, because I can't remember, who requested the peer review?
I believe it was the applicant.
Was it?
I believe it was
It's
the
like-
town.
Yeah. I think it was suggested by your staff as a way to evaluate the transportation assessment that was submitted and voted on by the board to
Okay.
proceed with the peer review.
I just couldn't remember. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Eliza. I would move that based on lack of any other availability, if we could at least on January 10th reconvene on this matter to at the very least, find some time that we can meet in person. And if it's not on a Wednesday, can we get together with someone in the, someone who can figure that out? If we can bend the rules that are kind of arbitrary.
And if we determine that we're,
please, could we not interrupt?
sorry.
Have we explored all the avenues, or, because I don't think it is fair to make them wait until February 28th. But I, for one, would really insist on having it be held in public forum.
Then I go back to, let's challenge the staff to figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah.
There's only one meeting room that is available for two important groups.
So I would move that we do reconvene on January 10th, but possibly only to decide on an in-person meeting of some kind.
Well, that doesn't help the petitioner if you're saying we're going to meet in January to discuss when we're going to meet in person.
This is true.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, I mean, I think if the board would consider continuing this to January 10th, if prior to January 10th, we're able to find a date that's soon, right around then I think, we would be willing to have a further conversation about putting that as an in-person meeting. If on January 10th or a couple weeks before January 10th, we're hearing that there's no way you have an in-person meeting right around that date, then we'd like to be able to go forward on January 10th.
I would say that's the only thing that really makes any sense, because we can't keep prolonging it.
I agree.
I'm not crazy about it, but we have to address this appeal. So I move that we continue to January 10th. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Herb Bodenseek, I'm in favor. Paul Pinard?
Favor?
Mark Hanson?
I'm in favor.
Aaron Webb?
In favor.
Denise Johnson?
Not in favor.
And Manny Alves?
In favor.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay, now to try to figure out what page is what here. Okay, new business. Did Attorney Ford arrive yet? Anna?
Herb, I see Jeff Ford.
Ford on our office is representing the applicant. I just spoke with Mike, who's handling this presentation tonight, and he's about 10 minutes out. So if we could, he still asked if he could be bumped up one. That would be terrific if the board would do so.
Okay, and rather the appeal 2023-034 Bay Bridge. I believe
Mike Ford in here now.
Correct? Pardon?
Mr.
Mike
Chair?
Ford's logged in now. Or he's in the waiting room.
Okay.
Or if you want to just go ahead with the one you were going to read in, and then.
Okay, Attorney Ford?
I just brought him in, so
okay.
should be 1 second.
Oh, there he is.
Herb, he's here if we want to start to read in the case.
Okay, that's a good idea. Okay, and we'll do that. We'll go back to Plan A. Okay. In the matter of appeal number 2023-033, 19 Burse Road LLC and 29 Burse Road LLC have petitioned for a variance pursuant to...
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Could David mute, please?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, actually. Okay, petition for a variance pursuant to section 240-11A, principal permitted uses in the RB residential district, 240-11E, bulk and dimensional variances, 240-35F, GP groundwater protection overlay districts, and to the extent required from 240-21A, 9A, A to G, J rather, and E, B, BA, and UB business districts. The petitioners are proposing to demolish and replace the 2 existing residential dwellings, combine the 2 parcels, and construct 4 two-family dwellings. The subject properties are located at 19 and 29 Burse Road, Hyannis, Mass, as shown on Assessor's maps, 310 and 311 as parcels parcels 288 and 039 respectively. They're located in the Residence B RB zoning district. And we have Attorney Ford here to represent the petitioner.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Attorney Mike Ford representing the petitioner. Sorry for the late arrival, and I appreciate the courtesy of the board allowing us to go forward here. I'm here together with Jeff Ford of my office, who represents Mr. Laham as well, and Zach Thomas of Atlantic Design Engineering. Atlantic has been the site engineers for this project. Mr. Chairman, as you indicated in the ad that you read, this is an application that involves 2 pieces of property, 19 Bierce Road and 29 Bierce Road. 29 Bierce Road abuts, for those of you who are not aware, the Audi automobile dealership.
Mike, would you like me to share anything on the screen?
Yes, if you could, Zach. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, could I have Atlantic bring up this map on the screen? So,
yes, please.
Thank you. So the 2 properties involved, you can now see on the screen, are 19 and 29. And to the north of 29 and abutting 29 is the Audi dealership, which is on 2 parcels. It's on 25 Bierce Road, which is north of Hallett Road, and 49, which is directly adjacent to 29. And 19, of course, abuts 29. Maybe to set the stage a little further, Zach, do you have the map that shows the businesses that surround this area? Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, what I've done now is have Mr. Thomas bring up a map for the board's review that shows you what is in this particular neighborhood. Again, the 2 parcels that are the subject of the petition are the yellow lots, 29 and 19 Bierce's Road. And what we try to do is label some of the other businesses in that area so the board would be familiar with exactly where we are. So again, to the north, abutting is the Audi dealership on those 2 parcels, 49 and 25. Cape Tire is just to the west of the Audi dealership. And then on the other side of Bierce Road, coming down towards the lots, are the new Citizens Bank, the new CVS, and then directly across from 29, there's a commercial parking lot and Bayside Auto Sales, a secondhand auto dealer across the way on number 20. There is listed a single-family home on number 4. But you'll see in some pictures that we'll bring forward in a moment for the board to kind of establish the neighborhood. We're not sure what is in that building at this point. All of the lawn has been taken out and it's completely gravel and has some landscape trailers on it. And then Luke's Liquors is just to the east of that. As you come around the corner on Bierce's, where it scallops there is a single-family home on the corner at 125. And then on the other side of the street, there's Cumberland's Farm, Auto Body, Rotary, Collision, and so forth. To the west of the parcel, on small lots, are a series of single-family homes. You'll see them from 30, 24, 16, 10, all of about 5,000 square feet in size. And those are single-family homes which are permitted in this RB zone. And 62 is a larger one on a larger lot. We weren't sure whether that was a single-family or a two-family home. So Mr. Laham, who owns 29 and 19 in two LLCs and owns the Audi dealership, also is the owner, just by way of background, for those of you who don't know him, of several other businesses in the immediate Hyannis area, starting out on Yarmouth Road with the Jeep, Dodge Ram, Chrysler dealerships, the BMW dealership, and then on the other side of town, the Volvo dealership and the Mazda dealership, as well as this Audi dealership. So the Jeep dealership is a brand new one on the Yarmouth Road, which is separating from the Chrysler and Ram dealerships that are there currently. He employs about 150 people, and like any employer, not just the large employers, any employer on Cape Cod, frankly, regionally, and the town of Barnstable and the village of Hyannis specifically, is facing the same acute need for workforce housing as the rest of the business world. And so when Mr. Laham purchased the Audi dealership, he picked up these two additional lots, 19 and 29, with an eye towards some employee housing, and has been able to use those two houses for employee housing since finishing up the Audi dealership. Indeed, 29 is currently occupied by a maintenance manager in the Audi dealership and his family. 19, for the board's edification, is currently vacant. And it is so because an employee moved out, and rather than put another employee right in there, and he has a long waiting list, he wanted to see what the outcome of this particular petition would be, so that he wasn't having to move somebody from 19 after putting them in there, because if in fact the board sees fit to grant the relief, the plan is to demolish these two single-family homes and to build on these two lots after they're merged 4 two-family dwellings with 2 units in each. And each of those 2 units are proposed to have 3 bedrooms, so they'd be family-style units. And Mr. Laham is proposing to restrict them, the occupancy of these units, solely to employees of his businesses within the town of Barnstable, which are, in addition to those dealerships, he also has the business of the car wash on Yarmouth Road as you come in. And as I say, his employee numbers are over 150. So he's got quite a list of employees that need the housing. And this project is specifically to fill that need. And when I get to the point in the presentation to review a proposed restriction with you, you'll see that he's willing to make that commitment long-term as to the occupancy of these units. So that said, maybe, Zach, you could put up the site plan so the board could see exactly, if you go right to the site plan itself, those are the existing houses. Okay, so.
Sorry, Mike. Yeah, just let me know what sheets you want and I'll move to them.
Yeah, if you could go to the sheet where the proposed buildings are so I can review that with the board. So here is the 4 two-family houses that are proposed for these 2 lots. As I indicated, each one of them has 3 bedrooms, so they would be suitable for families of employees of the businesses. and each one of them has a parking garage, so that parking is going to be handled on site. We have been, I should say, to site plan review. The project evolved, frankly, and I'll tell you, while at site plan review, the first project we brought forward before site plan was to have 2 buildings of 4 units each. And it has now evolved into dividing it up so the buildings are smaller. And they're all now just 2-family dwelling units that are on the site. The prior one was approved by site plan, and we went back to site plan with the 4 buildings so they could review it again. Because frankly, excuse me, there were changes with respect to stormwater, landscaping, utility connections, and setbacks when we went to the 4 buildings as opposed to the 2. We last appeared at site plan over the last couple of weeks. And in the course of that site plan review, we offered to frame a condition, which I have sent to the board for their consideration. The building commissioner specifically asked that he have an opportunity to review any condition that limited the occupancy of these buildings solely to employees. And so we drafted one, we sent it off. We sent it to town staff, meaning the planning and development department, the site plan review team, and to the building commissioner. The building commissioner was away over the last week, but he did come back yesterday, and want to thank him for taking the time to review that condition. And we've had a back and forth with the building commissioner and revised the condition as a result of that. And I sent that off to your board through Anna today, having gotten that input from the building.
Like I have those if you want to pull them on the screen at any point.
You have, right, those conditions. Why don't I wait and get to that after we walk through the rest of the project site itself. So before I get into, Mr. Chairman, the variance conditions, what I'd like to do is maybe kind of frame the neighborhood. I showed you the assessing plan with the numbers, but in as much as this is a Zoom meeting and folks are in all kinds of different places, I think maybe just a few photographs of some of the things in this particular area would be helpful to the board to kind of picture exactly where we are. So Zach, if you have those pictures, I'd like to start with up at the top of Bierce's Road with the Audi dealership, the other side of the road with Citizens, and then move down to where the site really is so they can see what's directly around the site.
Okay. I have a bunch of photos just labeled by address.
Okay. If you have the Audi dealership itself, would be 45 and 29, I believe. Start with 45.
Okay.
If you have that.
25 and 49 would be Audi.
25 and 49?
I'll share. How about I just share my whole screen here and you can actually look at the thumbnails and tell me which one.
Okay. Well, maybe that's all the board needs to see.
And I have 2 groups of photos that were sent to me by Jeff today. So this is group 1. And he said, I don't know if group 2 is needed. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, on group 1, the photos to the left of the screen, the top one is 19 Bierce Road. That's one of the single family homes. They abut 25, which is the next photo to the right, which is the Audi dealership. Standing at the Bierce Road site, you look across the street, you see the photo on the left, which is the second one down, which is Citizens Bank. And then looking directly across the street, there's that used car. There's an overflow parking lot for automobile sales and a Luke. You see the back of the Luke's Liquors, which is on the other side. 29 Bierce Road is the third picture. right there that's proposed to be removed as well. And that directly abuts the backside of Audi, which is the next picture on the right, 49 Beers. Across the street from there is, as I say, Citizens Bank, CVS, and auto sales. And then the CVS is the last picture over there on the right. And then there are a couple of other views, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, up and down Bierce's Road. But I think you've kind of gotten the flavor of it. And we do have more pictures if the board is interested in seeing more of that particular area. But I just kind of wanted to give that area. Maybe we could go back now to the plan that has the businesses labeled on it. So as I say, the proposal is to remove these two single-family homes. They were constructed sometime around 1950. Mr. Laham has owned them for a number of years since he redeveloped and built the new Audi dealership on the corner of 28 and Bierce's, and then also on 49. We have applied for a variance, and it's a use variance. And we've applied for a variance because these two-family houses are not permitted in the RB zoning district. You can see that across the street is commercial. That's a different zoning district. On our side of the street, the RB side, the 49 Audi dealership portion of the dealership site is pre-existing non-conforming on that site. And then the main dealership itself is in the HB zone where that is a permitted use. And then, so we're in the RB zone, which does not allow this type of housing. In fact, workforce housing is really not permitted in the commercial zone either. And it is workforce housing that we're proposing to construct by way of the condition. So, variance conditions. We've got to show you that there is something about the shape, topography, or soil conditions of these two parcels that are kind of unique to these parcels, but not the general area itself, such that if you apply the bylaw literally, we have a hardship. And a variance hardship is always a difficult thing to sustain. No one's entitled to a variance, and Mr. Laham knows that. However, Mr. Laham is driven in this particular case by the acute need for employee housing, as I indicated in my opening, the rest of the village of Hyannis, the greater town of Barnstable, and frankly, all of Cape Cod. So I'd suggest respectfully that the shape of these lots is determined in part by the shape of Bierce's Road. Bierce's Road being the dividing line between all of the commercial uses on the other side and these two houses on this side. And that if you, the hardship here is the acute need for housing. And in order to really address the need, simply utilizing these two single-family homes for employee housing simply doesn't even put a dent in what the employee housing needs are. And so, given all the planning that's been going on in housing in town and so forth, Mr. Laham felt, why shouldn't he step up to the plate and try and address some of the need for his own businesses by creating some employee housing on this particular site. I looked at a number of variance cases in the Commonwealth over the last 50 years. I did find some cases where a property that was near a commercial district, that while being next to a commercial district in and of itself is not necessarily a unique condition that satisfies the hardship. I did find a Watertown case from 1985 that indicated that land in close proximity of land zoned residential, which is in close proximity to highly commercialized area, is a factor that a board can consider in concluding that a parcel of land is not necessarily solely appropriate for single-family dwellings. And so I think we have that factual situation here, and I think that factual situation arises in part by the shape of the parcels, which determines the location of the parcels. We also have to show that what we're proposing will not be substantially more detrimental. That's the second prong of the variance test to the neighborhood affected. And I think in this particular case, the neighborhood to the rear, which are single-family homes on very small lots, I would suggest are not going to be negatively affected by the 4 two-family dwellings on these front lots. In fact, these workforce housing units will almost be a transitional area, I'd suggest, between the heavily commercialized area of Burses Road and the other side of Lewis Road, where everything from auto body to Cumberland Farms, gas station, to Luke's, to CVS, to Citizens, to Audi itself are located. And this will almost be a buffer along Bierce's Road to the rest of that residential neighborhood to have these two-family dwellings for workforce housing to serve the business. And so I don't think it's going to be a detriment to their property values. I don't think it's going to be a detriment to the single-family dwelling use, which is very dense, all back there on Otis Road and on Pilgrim Lane. But frankly, I think it could actually raise property values in that area by providing that kind of transitional buffer from that heavily commercial zone into the single-family small lot subdivisions, which are all there to the west on Hinckley, on Pilgrim, and on Otis. Finally, we've got to show you also that granting this relief would not be a derogation of the purpose intent of the zoning bylaw. You know, I think in this particular case, given the fact that a great deal of emphasis is being put now by the town on ways to try and deal with the workforce housing issue in town, that this is not, the grant of this variance would not be running counter to the purpose intent of the bylaw. First, if you can actually find variance conditions, it's the intent of the bylaw that you're permitted, not required certainly, but permitted to grant the variance. And so that all gets me back to, okay, what is the hardship? Mr. Laham has 2 single-family homes on 2 lots that allow single-family homes. The hardship here is really a tangible one, given the relationship between these lots and one of his businesses, which is the Audi dealership, and his inability, frankly, to provide in any meaningful way employee housing or workforce housing with just these 2 single-family homes. He's got a long list of people who work for him that have families, that are driving a great distance from off Cape to get there every day, here and the other dealerships. And to be able to put these 4 two-family units in place, all as family units, not as single-person units, it would address that hardship that not only Mr. Laham has, but all of the businesses, frankly, in the town have currently in an effort to try and address the workforce housing. So that would be our suggestion to the board as to how you could touch the 3-prong test for a variance in this particular case. Zach, if you could go now to the condition. I think you have the last condition that I sent out.
So is this have the most updated
No, that's the actual staff report itself.
Oh,
and
sorry.
Suggested variance conditions. I don't know whether Anna has the ability to put that last condition that I sent over this afternoon on the screen, Anna?
I do. If David gives me screen share, and
That would be great if you could bring it up, and then I could walk the board through it.
You should have it, Anna.
okay, just one second. Attorney Ford, can you see that?
I can.
Okay.
My hope is that the rest of the board can see it as well.
I hope so.
So, as I indicated, when we were before a formal site plan review, and indeed informal site plan review, we had offered, and the building commissioner took us up on the suggestion of coming up with a restriction that could be a part of any variance relief granted by this board that would ensure that these units only be used for workforce rental housing for employees and their families of the property owners' businesses. So I drafted up a condition and I sent it off to Commissioner Florence and to the site plan review team and to the planning and development department. And in my condition, I had the first sentence that you see there, that the 8 dwelling units shall be restricted to use for workforce rental housing for employees and their families of the property owners' businesses located in Barnstable. I then had a couple of sentences that required us to annually file an affidavit with the building department to show how we were complying with the first sentence. And then I had a further sentence that indicated that we would give notice to the building department 30 days prior to any sale of this property and provide a deed so we could show that this property was transferred with the business property to which it serves. I got comments back from Commissioner Florence, who said that the affidavit, as far as he was concerned, seeking compliance by affidavit was not manageable, in his words, through the building department. And he suggested different language, and which I have worked out with him in this second sentence. And let me take a moment and walk you through it because it's a little complicated. The second sentence says, if the property, which is the 2 lots that are under consideration, is proposed to be conveyed or transferred so that the property is no longer owned or controlled by the current owner of the adjoining Audi dealership properties, then prior to any such transfer or conveyance, the property owner shall be required to seek a modification of the variance. So what I understand Mr. Commissioner Florence was attempting to do by this type of restriction was to not allow any transfer of this property to any entity that didn't control or own the Audi property, because it was adjacent, abutting. It was easy to keep track of that way. And that was one of the businesses that these units were supposed to serve. Indeed, there are over 30 employees right there at Audi who, many of whom will probably be populating these units. So this is the end result of working with him on this. It's simply a suggestion for the board. I also sent it to planning and development. And so the board may well, to the extent they're willing to consider this, have suggestions about this language as well. But what we were trying to show through this condition, members, was that Mr. Laham is committed that these units will only be used for employees and their families, and that if the business is ever sold, it's got to go with the Audi business, and if not, has to come back to the Board of Appeals for any conditions as to occupancy of these units going forward. So I've done a lot of talking. I know there's a staff report, and there were a number of conditions in the staff report. And to the extent, I think condition number 3 is the only one that would probably be replaced with this condition if you decide to go with this condition. But condition number 3 perhaps could be incorporated with that as well. But we didn't have any trouble with any of the other proposed conditions that staff had in the staff report, Mr. Chairman. So with that, I should have said at the outset, Mr. Laham is also on the line. And so if the board has any questions for me or Zach Thomas of Atlantic or Mr. Laham, we're happy to try and respond to them, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? I'll bring it back to the board.
Yes,
Mr. Chair, did we assign members?
Not yet. Let's assign myself, Paul Pinard, Mark Hansen, Aaron Webb, and Denise Johnson. Thank you. I'm new at this.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Attorney Ford, you've asked for relief from 240-35F. Why?
Let me just take a look.
Groundwater protection.
We asked for it to the extent it was needed. And Zach, maybe you can bring up on our site plan the zoning compliance table. It may have had to do with the coverage on the lot.
Excuse me for 1 minute. Can I ask a related question to be answered at the same time?
Yes,
is this on public sewer?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I thought so. Thank you.
Yes, it is. I'm just trying to take a look at the, Zach, are you able to read the coverage, pervious, impervious on this? Yeah, it's at the top.
48% is provided, 50% is required.
Yeah, I think when I did that, to answer your question, Paul, when I filled out the application, I wasn't sure whether we were going to be over that amount. That's the issue I was concerned about in the groundwater protection district. And if we're at 50-50, then we will actually be in compliance.
Well, I have a problem with granting a variance that also grants F, F all of it except for that one particular, which I think is 3. I mean, I think the others are still valid. I think that they ought to be held. The owner ought to be held to those. I can't see giving you relief from all of F.
It's off by 2%.
If you want relief from F3, okay. But for the rest of it, no.
What are the other sections there that you think that we're running afoul of?
Well, I don't know if you're running afoul of, but if you're granted relief, then you could have underground fuel storage tanks. You could have storage. You could have storage of roll salt, other de-icing materials.
No. I mean, we couldn't because we're seeking a variance for what is shown on the plan. Period. Nothing more.
Well, it doesn't. The plans don't say what you're going to store there.
We can restrict that. That's not a problem. We're not interested.
I mean, why would you not want to be guided by F1, 2, F1 and 2?
I think we are. I don't think we have a problem with those.
Okay.
And as to the coverage, we actually meet the coverage. I thought when I filed the application that we might not, but we do. We comply with that as well. So we may not need a variance for the GP zone.
Well, you either do or you don't. It can't be a may. I mean, if we're going to grant a variance or discuss a variance, I would be comfortable knowing specifically what we're varying. And right now, you've requested variance from relief from F 246.5F. And
Right.
I'm not proposed to grant that.
And I think that if you did not grant that, I think we can probably withdraw that request so that you're not faced with that question.
That would be acceptable to me.
Yeah.
Okay. We could put something in the language that if the impervious is exceeded. No, never mind.
It's not exceeding it though. We've got the zoning
so-
table right up here, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to strike 240-35F.
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Attorney Ford.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Paul, for being so
Thank you.
thorough. Okay, there must be some more questions.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I don't want to feel like I'm stepping it back here from talking about the suggested variance conditions, but if I might, like to look back at the variance findings, and we all know that we have this three-pronged test that we need to meet with regard to the variance findings. When I'm looking and I'm hearing what is being proposed, right off the bat, a couple of things just stick out to me. I'd like to just make a few comments. Please feel free to respond after. Number one, it's been put forth that the lots, there's a small curve along Beers's Road, and that the abutting to that road presents I'm assuming a shape condition with regard to these two parcels. I would, in my own just noticing what surrounds that property, I would not say that this derogates from there are many curved roads that directly abut this area. I don't think that this property really represents a shape condition that would warrant a hardship, or that would be, for me personally, showing that number one was met as far as what is being proposed. Number two, a literal enforcement of the provisions would involve a substantial hardship. It's being proposed that the applicant requires housing. I do believe that, whether that is a substantial hardship or there are many businesses obviously around that require that, but is it a substantial hardship to this particular applicant? Being a financial hardship, probably not, but a hardship, again, needing housing is a hardship that exists everywhere. I don't know that it is particular to where this is located. We have a growth incentive zone. This is a single family residential district. And when I look at number three, the desirable relief being granted without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. Again, I can see that it abuts commercial property. I'm not saying that it doesn't, but we're talking about a zone that does not allow this. It's a single family zone. It is still a residential zone, and you're asking for a 400% increase on density for each parcel. It concerns me that this type of a build out in what is in fact a single family residential neighborhood is extreme, and that it does derogate from the zoning ordinance or the area in which it is zoned. Again, I get nervous when I see one house going to four. I mean, I am pro housing. There's no question. My concern here is that I'm concerned that that when we look at the variance findings, that it really, I find it difficult to believe that we are meeting those three variance findings. The fact that the petitioner is willing to put forth that it is workforce for their own use, sort of in my mind brings it from a fair housing to an exclusive housing. These are just, but maybe I could just stick to the three-pronged test here and give you a chance to respond.
So Do you want us to respond at this point or wait for
I
all
mean,
board-
you don't have to. That's just.
I'm happy to
These are
do
my
that.
initial thoughts about this, because that before we get to any really changing conditions, we have to meet those findings. And at this point, I am not convinced that we are meeting the 3-prong test at this point. And I just wanted to put some of my thoughts forth. And I'd also like to hear from town. You know, they had the ability to include this area in the growth incentive zone. Like to know what their thoughts are on this, why maybe it wasn't included, or it, you know, I'd like to him. I believe Jim might be available. I thought I saw him in the room, and maybe hear from town planning. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
If I may, finding number 2, it aids the petitioner really to provide worker incentive, because we all know there's a worker shortage. It's hard to get people to do just about anything. I've been trying for months to get different kinds of contractors to do things, and it's pretty hard, surveyors included. And that could be number 2. I don't see much of a problem with number 3, finding a way to, but number 1, I do have a kind of trouble finding a financial hardship, or rather a soil condition, shape, or topography, I mean. So you need to work on that, I would say. Any input on that?
Mr. Chairman, I was on your thought there. I mean, the hardship, again, is there a reason that just in theory, could these properties not be sold and purchase a property that is within a zone where the density can be increased? It's quite a large swath being, you know, directed by the town. Again, one of the reasons I get nervous here is all of a sudden we have a single family zone that this is in no way by right. We're doing an incredible amount of increase on the density. Convenient, yes. Hardship, I don't know. Is there no ability to sell these, to purchase something else? Again, I don't want to say that I don't understand the situation, but then what prevents people in that area from saying, well, I'm going to take my single family house, I'm going to put on a duplex or 4, or I mean, there's enough land there. I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is I get nervous that it sets a precedent that this could happen anywhere in the town at this point, and somebody could use it for a precedent on that. And is it truly a hardship? That is there no ability to do anything with these properties? There is no affordable component, even if we were going to put something forth. Again, my concern is that it's very dense for a single family zone. You know, we're going from 1 to 4, and they're significant.
So thank you. Without getting out the scale, it looks like the properties on the other side is it Otis Road? It looks like those are around 10,000 square foot lots.
So
and the lots in question add up to exactly an acre. So I could see maybe 4 or maybe 5 units being justified, comparing it just to the abutting properties, with the exception of, I think it was, I don't have it in front of me anymore, 62 or something. Anyway, it was also on that other side on Otis Road.
Yeah.
But I think 8 units, you have a good point, that Mark, that is a stretch.
So, Mr. Chairman, could I respond to a couple of these comments, or do you want me to wait until all the board members have had a chance to?
I think Denise wanted to say something.
All right.
Hi, next.
Yes, please.
Well, I'm actually very encouraged by this, because I think the idea of a business owner taking the reins and figuring out a way to provide housing for his staff, and I applaud that. I mean, I think that's a good thing. I don't think it's your definition of financial hardship. Biggest complaint of most business owners is they can't get help because they can't provide them with affordable housing. So I think this business owner is putting, he's got some skin in the game with this. And I know that neighborhood fairly well for some reasons over there, services I use. And it's residential, but this seems to be set back enough. And I don't think it's the beginning of I so much like this rather than a, 40, 50 unit building. And usually we have the reverse. We usually have a housing unit going in the middle of a residential area. And this is like almost a residential area going in what is primarily industrial. But I'm in favor of this. I think we have to be creative in any way we can get housing for our workforce.
Thank you.
I agree. But I also agree that Mr. Lehan was, I think it's pretty applaudable, if that's a word, to propose this. I'm just not sure if we can shoehorn it into this zoning district, but that's what we're here for.
So, Mr. Chairman, you tell me when you would like us to respond to board comments. I'm happy to, as I say, wait until we get all board comments.
I have another comment, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So, Attorney Ford, you referenced parking garage in your presentation. I don't from the site plan see that, and also, what I don't see is where the parking happens for these units on that site plan proposed.
I think it's under here.
AP 2023-033 permit plans.
No, go back.
They give some elevations.
Yeah, that's
right there.
Yep.
Thank you.
So hi, this is.
Oh, so I see. The parking is underneath.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Gotcha. I did not see that. Thank you. And then secondly, on site plan review, hold on one second. Let me just pull this up here. Site plan review dated the 7th, which was yesterday. Kate Maldonado from Planning Development stated that applicant needs to discuss building height. I don't see that in the application here.
I think the height meets the zoning bylaw. To the ridge.
No, to the plate. 30 feet to the plate.
To the plate. 30 feet to the plate. It meets it.
Okay, just want to again, reviewing the notes from the site plan review, it is listed there as from planning. It says, and I can read it verbatim here. I'm going to pull that here.
Aaron, if you like, I can pop in if that's okay, Mr. Chairman. So, Attorney Ford, I believe you are the maximum building height is 35, where 30 is required, is my understanding. I believe that's also illustrated on the site plan. But however, I do believe you have actually filed for that under the bulk and dimensional variance request.
Right, and it turned out not to be needed, similar to the groundwater protection section that I was shown.
So have you reduced it below the 30 that you have it cited on the site plan as 35?
At the ridge, but not the plate.
I'm just referencing your site plan that says zoning relief is required, 35 feet is provided.
It's not needed. It's 30 feet.
You may wish to amend your plan then.
Okay, so which, the actual site plan from Atlantic, is that what you're referring to, Jim?
Yes, sir. Sheet 3 is where you have the zoning table.
And I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading it almost.
Yeah, it's at the very bottom there of the zoning district table. You see a little asterisk. It's real small.
Yeah, and I believe that they measured that to the ridge.
That's correct.
And in Barnstable, it's 30 feet to the plate. So I don't think that's correct. I do not believe we need that relief, and we can withdraw that portion of the variance relief as well. We will have to correct the site plan, Jim. You're absolutely correct, because the site plan says we need a variance. Did you have another question, Mr. Webb?
Sorry about that. I did not. No, as long as that's as long as that's agreeable with staff, and it appears like it is, Jim. Yeah.
So, if I may, Mr. Chairman, on that point, on the application, 2040-11E has both height and setback limitation. So I read that to mean that when you were seeking a variance from that provision, that it was all in. You were both seeking height as well as setback restrictions.
No. And you're absolutely correct, Mr. Alves. And again, this final plan that we've brought forward is only 30 feet to the ridge. I mean, to the plate. The 35 feet that the Atlantic measured is to the ridge, which is not how height is measured in this section of zone in Barnstable. So our error. It's sorry that we misdirected you there on the site plan and the application. I think in our effort to make sure we covered all bases, we perhaps applied for a couple of things that it's turned out we don't need a variance from.
So, yeah, one more comment. I too would like you to address, especially the first prong of the test, but maybe it's something else on the regs. I just measured this on Google Earth, and it seems to be within the 300 feet. But 29 Pierce is not within 300 feet of Route 28, is it? Because we cannot. The bylaws do not allow us to grant a use variance within that distance. Is that right?
In the highway business zone.
Mr. Elves is right. You can't grant a use variance 300 feet from, I believe it's 28 and 132. We did do a measurement, and I believe this is just beyond 300 feet, our initial measurement, but you could certainly ask the applicant to also provide a confirmatory measurement, certainly.
Yep, it seems to be, but if that could just be a representation from the... Again, that's a smaller issue. I agree with Mark. I'm stuck in the three prongs, especially the first one.
So happy to try and address those comments at this point, Mr. Chairman. You tell me when.
Well, everyone would like to work on item 1 in the findings of shape and topography, if we can justify that. Soil conditions.
Yeah, so that's the same issue. I think it's being raised by the other two members, and I was going to address that when you want.
Exactly. Oh, how about if we address that right now?
Okay. So, Zach, could you bring up the larger plan again that shows all of the businesses on the site? Okay, so our argument, if you can follow it, was that the shape of these two parcels was different than the shape of the other parcels within the immediate zoning district. And you take a look at the lots that are in this single family zoning district as it was described, and most of them over there on Hinckley and on Pilgrim are somewhere between 5,000 and 7,500 square feet. The density is very high. And so 4 units on almost an acre, because we've got 2 of the largest lots in this single family zoning district, you end up with a density that's pretty close to the very tiny lots that support all of those houses that went in there at that density because of the sewer. That's how those subdivisions ultimately were built. So when I indicated that the shape of the parcels was unique, it wasn't simply because of the curve of the road and that anybody in the town of Barnstable could find 2 lots like this and anywhere in town and come in with the same thing, that this was a precedent. 2 comments to that. One, zoning decisions are not precedential unless you're making a decision as to an interpretation of the bylaw or a ruling of law on some particular section. But what you decide in one variance or a special permit doesn't necessarily bind your hands. It's an ad hoc thing, and there are many cases that support that, that you can look from each site. Each site is unique. Now, why is this one unique? I'd suggest respectfully it's unique because it is immediately across from this intensified commercial district. Not only is it immediately across, but it abuts the commercial non-conforming portion within this zone, the Audi dealership on 49, which has a large building on it and is right up against 29. And so those are conditions by way of location, which is a result of the shape of the lot, that I'd suggest respectfully make these two unique, given all the other lots in this particular area, given their size, their location, how they're juxtaposed with all of those commercial uses that they look right across the street at, and that frankly, rather than having a negative effect on the integrity of this single family zoning district with all these little tiny lots with houses on them, I think that the two family dwellings here, as I indicated in my presentation, would result in it being transitional. Okay, so let's assume that, and I'm not saying you do necessarily, that you bought that, okay, maybe you've got some argument that these lots are kind of unique when you're looking at the rest of the RB zone. How do you get to the hardship? Well, the hardship, frankly, is what was identified by some of the other members of the board, that this is an acute need, that is workforce housing, employee housing. And in order to make a serious, frankly, dent in that, the additional density is being asked for. And with the sewer, and given how densely the rest of this RB zone is, I don't think these houses, even 4 on an acre, really are out of place with the rest of this zoning district. So I'd ask you to take a look at that broader issue. It is a community issue. It's a community housing issue. And the town, frankly, when you find lots like this that abut the business they're going to serve, that are right across the street from the heavily not industrialized, retail zone, although there are some industrial uses, Bayside Auto Sales and the Rotary Collision Auto Body and Cumberland Farms gas station, that frankly, this is a unique location, and you won't find many of these throughout the town. And some might say, well, you got a zoning line, you can't keep moving the zoning line, but we're not moving the zoning line because the use we're going to make of it is still residential. We're not making a commercial use of this, even though it's in the middle of all these commercial uses, we're still making it residential. And the hardship is the inability to make any real dent in employee housing, sticking with one house on each one of these lots, which are very large lots for this district. 1 and 2 are the lots that face all of the retail stuff on the other side of the road. The other lots don't. And these lots actually abut the Audi dealership. So that would be my additional comments. And I know the variance test is a very difficult one, and I know that no one's entitled to a variance, and we understand that. But we would ask the board to look at the bigger picture here. And if you're concerned about a precedent, I don't think you should be, because I think this is a very unique set of circumstances, the way these lots are shaped, located, and are adjacent to the commercial use, even though they're in the RB zone.
Attorney Ford, I don't have the figures in front of me. Maybe you or your staff does. If the proposed 2 lots were if the abutting lots are 5,000 to 7,000 square feet, how many of those would fit inside the two lots?
7 to 8.
7 to 8, yeah.
7 to 8. And what you're doing is you've asked for 8, right?
We have.
Okay.
So can I make a couple of comments, Mike?
Mr. Chairman, could Mr. Laham address the board? He's on.
Oh, certainly.
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Sure. So members of the board, thank you for taking the time tonight to stay and listen to us discuss this matter. One of you just brought up the fact that how did we get to 8? You know, what's the reason for 8? And it's exactly what was just brought up. We looked at the properties in the area that are zoned residential, and in general, they're about 5,000 to 7,000 square feet. I can't tell you the difficulty we're having attracting staff to come to Cape Cod. All of you know that better than me because we all live here and we all have our businesses here. Mike has mentioned to you that we have 150 staff throughout our 7 locations that we operate. I would say that if you've noticed anything over the last 12 to 15 years since we've been doing this, the boards in the town have been very good to us. And we have reciprocated by giving a quality product, increasing the staff counts, increasing the tax base, and every other thing that goes along with it. We have a lot of respect for the boards and what their wishes are. We've adhered to all those. We've always gone above and beyond to accommodate that. And as I said, the boards have always been very good to us. We will not disappoint you. If you look at this plan, and Zach, if you could bring up the image that you showed a minute ago, one of you mentioned about parking. And we took that into consideration. As you can see, there's 2 parking spaces per building in the main level. The reason the height of the building is so we can get the parking underneath. We're not trying to make it a commercial area. We're keeping it residential. I would invite any of you to drive down that road and tell me that you think that's residential when you look at across the street a used car lot with cars parked on the street practically and a body shop that's got tow trucks running in and out of there all day long. I think all in all, we understand that the variance is not something we're entitled to. We're asking for something. This is a significant investment in the community. It's in our best interest, both ours, mine, and my company, and I think the town's. And yes, these 3 items that we have to meet, they're difficult. But I said to Mike, we have to do this. It's not that we want to do it. We're going to build something of significance here that's important to me as well as to all of us. If you all know this, and I'm sure you do, it's difficult to attract families. They can't afford there's no rentals available for families. And when you consider our companies, all of us, we don't just want one single person living there and benefit them, because I don't want to give them a hardship either. This isn't a financially beneficial process for me. The cost to build these, pay the taxes on them, it's not a profit-making process. It's building a strong community in our community and keeping the area residential. Somebody mentioned, and I apologize, I think it was Mr. Hansen said, could you sell these 2 lots? No, because when we bought one of the lots, we promised the town that we would not sell it and then we would use it for residential use. And we've done so. The difficulty now is when one of my staff members comes to me and says, we need a place to stay and we'd like to move. We've had 2 people move from Colorado because they think Cape Cod's so beautiful. And it is. And that's why we all love it here, because this is our life. This is Cape Cod. You either love it or you don't. And so when those people moved, in both instances, they were delayed by months because they couldn't find housing. Some of them have to go off Cape to find housing. So I think Mike's brought out a lot of good points. And I think you all have, said some great things about the areas, but I can just say this to you. I can promise you that you will not be disappointed in what we're doing. We're not going to make this a commercial area. We're certainly going to enhance everything we've ever done in Hyannis. If you look at every single project I've ever done, when we built the auto salon, which most people call a car wash, we didn't just build it to look like a commercial building. We built it to the image that we thought was best for the community. And everything that we've done that way. So We're asking for your support in this. I would tell you that this is something that we think when it's done, you'll all be proud of the day we come up and cut the ribbon and say, welcome these new families to the community and to our special place here called Cape Cod. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was well said. And I applaud you for your effort. And with the information, I'm only one vote, but with the information from Attorney Ford regarding the other lot sizes, I was just kind of eyeballing it, saying maybe there were 10,000. I find it even more believable that they're 5,000 to 7,000 square feet, which justifies to me the 8 units. Does anybody else have an opinion on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Paul. I think the hardship here is these 2 lots are too big. And because they're that size, if they were kept as single family housing, it would be of, they've lost their value because of their abutting next to a business and across the street from businesses. So I think the hardship is to maximize the value of the lots. While that's not our objective here, but to equalize those lots with respect to the surrounding residential area, that 8 units, that is 2 separate units per lot, is in fact keeping with the area, and also eliminating the hardship of having these huge lots with very little value.
Very good. Very good. Mark, did you want to say something?
No, and I'm just maybe Mr. Lamb can answer this. So, what would be the proposed rents? Again, I'm still stuck on one thing, but what would, in theory, the proposed rents be for these units?
So that's a good question, Mr. Hanson. I can tell you, we've got estimates on building these units, and it's gone up, as you know, with everything.
It's probably about $2.5 million, right? More.
You're spot on, Mr. Hanson, because when we started this project, this was, hey, we need to do something here. I'm sick and tired of hearing people come to me and saying, I can't find a place to live. We lost this young girl and her boyfriend that worked for us. They moved to Maine because they couldn't find housing because it was $2,400 for a 2-bedroom. So my attitude is put this thing to pencil and, is it $3,000 for a 3-bedroom or $2,500? Quite frankly, I'm not looking to make a profit. I just want to get a family that comes to work for me that you all know the problem we have is once they get here, keeping them here. And once they get here and they stay here, we own them. And I mean Cape Cod. I mean, if you love Cape Cod, you'll never leave. And the problem is we're driving these younger families out because they can't afford it. If you try to rent an apartment for $2,500, 2 people living, it's difficult. So yes, I think it's probably going to be about the 25 to 3,000 range. I'm going to subsidize it, to be quite frank with you. It's not, if you go back to the picture and you look at what I propose to build here, I can show you some color renderings. Please tell me that would not enhance the neighborhood, increase the tax basis, and provide a great environment for families. Forget if they're just my families. I'm talking about collectively, we all have to have, much is given and much is expected. We have to give back to the community. I don't like to say this very often because I don't think it's a good thing. We give back. We're a company that gives back a lot to the community. And when I say that, we don't need to tell everybody, oh, we just gave to the United Way, or we just gave to this one of that. That's not, we give back even to the community. At Christmas, our Christmas bonus is at Puritan Clothing. I want them to stay local. I mean, this is what it's all about. Look, we need your support. We're not asking. We need you to support us to get this done. And if you've been here, which I know you all have been, look at every project I've done. I have never cut a corner. I do them right from start to finish. We we do everything and then some. And I know it's difficult, but we need your support. We're asking you to help us get this process through. When I built the Audi store, I had to spend $100,000 to put a water pipe in the middle of the road because the water wasn't sufficient. And then when CVS came in, they got the water pipe because I installed it. But that's part of what happens when you build these projects. Again, I can't sell these lots because I promised the town when I built Audi that the house next door would be for residential. And then I happened to buy the one next to that. And for some of us who know this community, yes, it's been enhanced, but you can't look across the street and tell me between the body shop, the gas station, the car lot, and the package store, the CVS and the bank, that this is a residential neighborhood. So I'm sorry I'm going on and on, but I believe that the heart is speaking more than the head at this moment, so I apologize.
Oh, I've been around for Bonesick here. I've seen a lot of your cases, and you really do follow through. You're not just throwing out lip service like some people do. So, yeah.
Thank you.
100%.
Mr. Chairman, I move to open up the public comment at this point.
Yes, are we done discussing this?
I'd like to wait until after public comment. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so moved. I don't think we have to approve of moving to public comment. Do we have any public comment? I don't believe I've seen any. Anna?
I don't believe we received any public comment. Jenna, did you get anything today?
Nope, I did not.
Okay, seeing none, I will close.
Someone does have their hand up.
Oh, excuse me?
Someone does have their hand up.
Oh, okay.
Cliff Carroll. If you do have any public comment, now is your time to speak.
Yes, I am waiting actually in the hold pattern for the EFSB announcement at the end of this hearing. But in the meantime, I do support this project, and I am involved in housing in town. And I think that Mr. Laham really did a great job of talking about the community. But
could you identify yourself and give us your address, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Cliff Carroll. I live in West Barnstable. And again, I'm waiting to comment on the EFSB at the end of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to close public comment?
Motion to close public comment.
Okay. Okay. In favor, Herb Bodenseek, Paul Pinard?
In favor.
Okay. Mark?
In favor.
Aaron?
In favor.
And Denise?
In favor.
Okay. Now, moving on, do we have anything to talk about that we haven't covered yet? I think Mark wanted to say something.
Yeah, if I could make one last comment. So, again, I want to reiterate that there is probably nobody here that is more pro-housing than myself. I do struggle with the idea of putting, regardless of what the other lots are that surround it, it's a big ask on this kind of density on a what is zoned single family residential. I'm kind of reading the board here a little bit. If I could make a comment, I personally, you have a town that gets crazy when projects go online without an affordable component. This is an ask. This is not a by right, and this is not a situation where. And I know everybody understands that. Again, I think I would be if the board is feeling, moving towards this, I would feel more palatable if a portion of this project had an affordable component to it. I know that complicates things, but this again is a big ask. It's for me personally, I'm still, the 3-prong test is something we are mandated to stay towards. Struggling with the shape a bit myself, but it seems that the board is making their way around these, and that they can get their head around number 3. But again, I worry that that there is a large give here, and we don't even know. And again, I understand that it probably will be subsidized, but again, I personally would feel better if in fact it is going forward, that there was something along that line. But that is just my own feeling.
I'm sorry.
Could I answer that?
No, the hearing is closed.
Oh, sorry.
The hearing is closed. I'm sorry.
You are correct.
Yeah, Mark, I hear you, but I don't think this is that big an ask. I mean, this is quite reasonable to me, very reasonable, and I believe that we can address the hardship, and I think this is kind of neat, quite frankly. I agree with Denise. I think it is well petitioned, and I take into account what Attorney Ford said, but I think it's well petitioned from any other precedent. In fact, I don't even, if there weren't the restriction that they have to be employees of Audi and those dealerships, then I would move towards your position of low income percentage. But that's not what this is. This is specifically corralled, if you will, for workplace housing, and it doesn't meet. Probably, I doubt it would meet the requirement for low income. So I don't see that as a necessary requirement here.
Yes, Paul, the two kind of fight against each other. It can't be affordable and be workforce housing owned by the employer. So my only concern now, since Mark brought it up, is this now is 8 not non-affordable, but they just go into the town's inventory as 8 more units that now we almost have to come up with more affordable units to offset these 8. But I'm not going to let that really affect.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Good.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Again, I understand it's not a money-making venture, but I also understand the numbers on projects like these. I'm intimately involved with it. I just feel like, there should be some idea about where these are actually hitting. I mean, at $3,000 a month or $3,100 a month, this is absolutely a money-making project, no question. But that being said, I like the project. I mean, I love the housing. I like the look. I like everything about it. I just, for me personally, like I said, loving housing is very different than meeting a 3-prong test. So again, I seem to be in the minority here a little bit. It's not that I don't want housing. I think this looks like a great project, but I'm just thinking about the zoning. If the board feels that this is an encapsulated request, that's fine. But what is going to happen when one of the abutters comes up and says, well, I'm going to put a duplex on mine, or I'm going to put a duplex on mine? I mean, there's been no real talk of, they'd have to get the bulk variations, but it worries me that it's going to happen somewhere else, that somebody's going to use this project and say, you did it here, you went from 1 to 4, and then and that could be in any residential neighborhood. We're essentially spot zoning. So again, that's just my concern. It's not that I don't like this project, I do. But at the very minimum, I would love to know that whoever is going into these truly is paying something that is somewhat subsidized, or what he has as a between him and his employees is obviously his business. But again, I still feel like it is an ask. But that again, that's my own feeling. I'm pretty much done with my comments, so I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I think Attorney Ford did cover the uniqueness of these two lots, which I guess are going to be combined into one as part of this variance. But they are unique. They're also, you're not going to have another lot owner nearby that's going to be able to say that he's providing living spaces for his employees. And if they do and come before us, we would probably entertain that as well. But I think this is unique enough where, again, Attorney Ford observed that it's not making a precedent. It can't be seen as that. But I see your concern.
I understand, Mr. Chairman, but I don't care if he charges $10,000 a month per unit. That's irrelevant here. To me, it's totally I don't care what he charges, and I don't think we should care either. I don't care. It's constrained. He's constrained only to his employees to satisfy a need for workplace housing. So whether he charges $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000, that's his problem or his challenge. I don't think that doesn't enter into my decision, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right. And I agree with you. I think anything he charges his employees, and it's an incentive for the employees to work for him. I'm sure he's only trying to cover costs. Yeah. He's not trying to make a buttload of money here. So,
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment real quick.
Yes, please.
How is it decided how do we know definitively that it's solely his employees? I mean, who's managing that aspect of it? And what happens if an employee, is in the unit and now no longer becomes employed? Again, I'm just curious about whose responsibility is it on a town level to prove it and manage it?
Well, there was discussion in some of the material of a yearly affidavit, and I think that the building commissioner wasn't against that, but thought it would be kind of difficult to manage. I don't recall exactly how, or if he even said how, but it definitely does need to be verified. And I suppose it would be self-policing in a way.
Yeah, but just what concerns me again is that we have so many units going up across town, between, again, we all know the units that are coming online here within the next 2-3 years. I don't really, I'm in favor of it, so I guess that doesn't really matter, but I'm just, my mind is just boggled with the amount of units that are coming online in town and how that's going to ultimately affect, others and so forth. And again, if Mr. Laham has these buildings here and doesn't have tenants, what happens then? I mean, he's going to want to rent them. And again, I wouldn't blame him. He doesn't want, to spend $2.5 million, whatever the number was, and have them be empty, so, again, I worry a little bit about that, but whatever, that's, I guess, up to the town to manage it at this point.
Or Mr. Laham, he isn't going to want people living there that, hi, Denise.
Well, I just think we should stop trying to think of all the things that could go wrong. I mean, I see a different side. Yeah. I see this as a model that perhaps Mr. Laham could take to some of his colleagues and other businesses and say, here's how I'm solving some of the employment problems. It's not solving the housing problem on the Cape. But it could be a model. It could be a model and it gets 8 families housing. And, sometimes we just got to go. We can't wait for the big picture. We got to, get some of these things on a gun, and I don't see any downside. I'm sure Mr. Hahn is going to have an interest in if a employee terminates employment, he's going to deal with it and want to give the apartment to the next employee that's a tenant. So I think I'd like to make a motion. We go ahead and approve this. And I'm sure there are conditions that somebody wants to make, but I just think this is a great thing we can point to other employers saying, here's a way to get around it and not wait for giant projects or the government to fix this.
Absolutely, I agree. Okay, so we've already closed public comment. Would you like to make findings, Denise?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick, just I know we're trying to get moving here. If I could just a little bit of cleanup. So did close public comment. If we could get a motion to close the hearing, so formally closing that hearing would be appreciated. And then subsequently from that, there was, I have 3 withdrawals that the applicant is requesting. So if the applicant could agree to that, and then a motion to accept those withdrawals, likely without prejudice, for I have 240-11E, 240-35F, 240-21A, 9, A through J, and E. So a motion to close the hearing, second, and all the vote, and then if the applicant agrees to withdraw those 3 items that he has applied for, we would just be down to the use variance at that point.
Oh, okay. Very good. It's a good thing you came in tonight. All right. Okay, since you've already listed those items that are going to be withdrawn, I think that's covered. Would that be correct? So
we'll just want to make sure Attorney Ford is agreeable and formally request that withdrawal, and then you could, as a board, accept that withdrawal.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Ford?
Yes, so I know the public hearing is closed, so I assume I have a right to respond to your request, notwithstanding that.
So we're talking about 240, 30.
We're talking about the first one was the GP zone. Is that right, Jim? And yes, I do want to withdraw that one. What was the second one you had? The one on height. I do want to withdraw that one.
Yep, and then thirdly, you had at the very end just the extent required 240-21, which was the B, BA, and UB.
Yeah,
I don't believe that's pertinent.
I don't think so either. I threw those in because I wasn't sure whether somebody would try to apply those. So, Mr. Chairman, the applicant hereby withdraws the 3 sections that Mr. Kupfer has just referred to without prejudice.
Okay, and those, just to be thorough, were 240-11E, 240-35F, and 240-21 with respect to B, BA, and UB business districts.
That's correct. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I will move to close public hearing. Close the hearing, as Jim suggested. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Herb Bodenseek is in favor. Paul Pinard?
In favor.
Mark Hansen?
In favor.
Aaron Webb?
In favor.
And Denise Johnson?
In favor.
Okay. Would somebody like to make findings? Oh, can I make a request that we take the graphic down?
Yeah, because I can't see.
Right.
And then as he's doing that, before we make the motion for findings, if someone can motion to accept the withdrawal as stated by the applicant.
Make a motion to accept the withdrawal of variances from applicant.
Second, Paul.
Okay. Herb Bodenseek in favor. Paul Pinard?
In favor.
Mark Hansen?
In favor.
Aaron Webb?
In favor.
And Denise Johnson? Oh, can't hear you, Denise. Denise, you're muted.
In favor.
Thank you. Okay. Who would like to make findings? Denise? Not necessary, but if you want to.
I think I'll let someone else do it. I haven't had my tutorial yet.
Okay. Paul expressed some interest, I believe.
Sure.
You don't remember, maybe.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This has to do with appeal number 2023-033. 19 Bierce Road LLC and 29 Bierce Road LLC have petitioned for a variance pursuant to section 240-11A, principal permitted uses in the RB residential district. we don't strike out 240E, 11E, 240F, and to the extent required from 24021, guide me here, Herb.
No, we're not including those. I can make findings if you want.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Now, if I can just find this, here it is. Okay. Okay, 19 Burse Road LLC and 29 Burse Road LLC have petitioned for a variance pursuant to section 240-11A principal permit uses in the RB residential district. We're no longer going to include anything on the public notice. Following that, the petitioners are proposing to demolish and replace 2 existing residential dwellings and construct 4 two-family dwellings. The subject properties are located at 19 and 29 Burse Road, Hyannis. According to the application, the petitioner owns multiple local businesses operating local business operations, which staff in excess of 150 employees, one of which is abutting the Audi dealership at the end of Burse. The petitioner struggles with providing housing for the employees. Due to this demand, the petitioner has worked with their team to come up with a design to provide additional housing on these 2 lots for up to 8 employees and their families. The petitioner has offered to condition the variance on the requirement that the new units only be rented to employees of the petitioner's businesses and their families. Statutory requirements of MGL Chapter 40A, Section 10 for granting a variance is a 3-prong test. The board is required to find that each of the following 3 requirements has been met in order to consider granting the variance. 1, owing to circumstances related to soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located. I find that the 2 properties are unique in their relationship to the abutting business properties across the way, their relationship to the Audi dealership, which will own the 2 properties, or does own the 2 properties. The very small lots located on the other side of the 2 lots in question, and well, the need for housing, I'm not sure if that would go under this, but that would be my finding on number 1. Number 2 is literal enforcement of the provisions of the zoning ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. That almost, in my mind, if anybody wants to add to it, but providing living space for workers, it's only an added bonus really that they're his workers, but it also provides them with an incentive to work for him. So it benefits the petitioner in being able to actually get employees in a tight market, a market that's tight on the Cape versus other places because of the lack of housing. If anybody has anything to add, feel free. Otherwise, desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance. I believe that speaks for itself. I don't see any derogation to the neighborhood, and really enhancement, if anything. Those are my findings. Do I have a second?
Second, Aaron.
Okay. Aaron seconded. Paul, you were speaking, but your microphone was off.
I was going to second. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
You're too slow. Paul, you're too slow.
Well, you won't be very good on Family Feud then, I guess.
I know.
Okay. So a roll call vote. Herb Bonesiek, I'm in favor. Paul Pinard.
I'm in favor.
Mark Hansen.
As proposed, I am not in favor.
Very good. Aaron Webb.
I am in favor.
And Denise Johnson.
In favor.
Okay. And then we also have suggested variance conditions, and I believe after discussion, the only one that needs any enhancement is, I believe, number 3, Attorney Ford.
Right. I've offered a restrictive condition about the usage of the units, which I can represent that I did run by the building commissioner in an effort to make his revisions.
Okay, was that number 3, or I think it was number 3? So it should read, going into the record, the 8 dwelling units shall be restricted to use for workforce rental housing for employees and their families of the property owners' businesses located in Barnstable. If the property is proposed to be conveyed or transferred so that the property is no longer owned or controlled by the current owner or the adjoining Audi dealership properties, then prior to any such transfer or conveyance, the property owner shall be required to seek a modification of the variance. Still not sure if that's number 3 or which number that was in the conditions.
Well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, and I know you're in deliberations, but I think you're asking me a question. Number 3 says, should the lots be transferred to new ownership, the transfer must be approved by the board. I thought maybe the one that you just read would replace that.
Yes.
And that's the only reason I said that. But it's up to the board as to whether they want that to replace it or not.
Yep, I was just double checking with you if that was your intent. So the wording I just read into the record will replace what is shown on the staff report dated October 31st, 2023. Otherwise, the 6 conditions on the staff report, are they acceptable, Attorney Ford?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
A question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
On
Yes,
number 2, there's another revision we made tonight, which had to do with the height, I believe, right?
Well, there will be a change. You're correct. Well, there will be a change to the site plan to drop the request for a variance from the height. There was a note on the plan that said a variance was being requested for the height, and you want that dropped. So we will revise the site plan to accommodate that request.
Okay.
And otherwise, we already took the bulk requirement. But
So number 1, Mr. Chairman, we eliminated a bunch of that, right?
Yeah, you have.
Okay, so the conditions should be adjusted accordingly.
They should be. All of those sections that were withdrawn should be withdrawn from number 1 as well.
Right.
Very good. Very thorough. Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Chairman, just real quick to reiterate, the condition number 3 is going to replace by what was discussed, or I'm sorry, I just happened to miss what you said there, but that Mr. Florence submitted. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is in an email from Attorney Ford to Anna Brigham regarding, and that's dated.
Yep, it starts with the 8 dwelling units shall be restricted use of workforce housing, so forth.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha. I'm sorry, my fault.
Okay, and I've read that in, so we're good with that.
So I make a motion to approve the conditions as discussed.
A second, Paul.
Okay. And those in favor, Herb Bonesiek, I'm in favor. Paul Pinard.
In favor?
Mark,
Not in favor as proposed. Thank you.
Aaron,
I'm in favor.
and Denise.
In favor.
Okay, you have your attorney, can we go home now? No. You have your variance attorney forward and Mr. Lamb, thank you.
Was that just the findings or was that the grant of the variance?
That was the grant of the variance. That was, the last thing was the conditions.
Conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Okay. Does anybody want to take a break? I wouldn't be against it.
Yes.
5-minute break?
Right.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. I will now. Okay, we are now back in session. The next item of business.
Your video's off, Herb.
Oh, my video's off. Thank you. It's probably for the best. Okay. Selfie facing. Yep, that's me. The next order of business is petition. I thought I had my stuff here earlier. I'm going to blame the cat. Hold on, give me 1 second.
I was going to say, where is the cat tonight?
She's right over there, jabbing me with her claws for attention.
Before we start, Herb, it looks like somebody's turned closed captioning on, which is a way to record this meeting. Is that you, David, or is it a member of the public? Because you had asked at the beginning if anybody was recording it to identify themselves.
I believe it's just something that people can use. It shows that nobody else is recording the meeting. But no, it should be fine. That's happened before. Nothing's ever come of it, so we're fine.
Thanks.
I got to put the mute on.
Let's go.
Okay, the cat helped me find it. The next order of business is appeal number 2023-034. Bay Ridge, is it? I think it's Bay Bridge, isn't it? Realty? Bay Ridge? Okay.
Yes, Bay Ridge.
Okay, has applied for a comprehensive permit pursuant to MGL Chapter 40B, Sections 20, 21, 22, and 23. The applicant proposes to construct 14 housing units, 24 bedrooms in total, within 4 detached buildings and associated parking and site improvements on 3.95 acres for rental purposes in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, 760 CMR. The unit mix shall consist of 6 one-bedroom units, 6 two-bedroom units, and 2 three-bedroom units. 4 of the units will be restricted as affordable for low or moderate income persons. The subject property is located at 900 Old Stage Road, Centerville, Mass, as shown in Assessor's Map 192 as parcel 001. It is located in the Residence CRC zoning district. Applicant, please.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Peter Free.
I think members need to be assigned.
Assigned member. Okay. I'm going to assign myself, Paul, Mark, Aaron, and Manny. Okay. Now the applicant may proceed.
Thank you. Again, Peter Freeman, attorney in Yarmouth Port, representing the applicant. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. So we have our team here tonight, and I'm just going to start off with a brief overview, including introductions of the team, and then we'll turn it over to the rest of the professionals who are here tonight. So the applicant is Bay Ridge Realty, LLC, Principal Dennis Cricado. Dennis is here. And as the next slide shows, we don't need to go to it yet. He has experience owning and operating many apartment units on the Cape and is renovating some units now as well. I am the attorney, as I just said. Our civil engineer is Matthew Eddy from Baxter Nye Engineering and Surveying in Centerville. Our architect is John Lafreniere from Lafreniere Architects in Cambridge. And last but far from least is Randy Hart from VHB, our traffic engineer. And we will all participate in our presentation tonight. I just really mentioned what the next slide showed, and I don't know actually screen sharing, Anna or Jenna. Can we put up the slides?
Anna, yeah.
Can we put up the slides and then Matt Eddy?
Is it okay if
Yes.
Actually, Peter, Anna, if it's okay with the board, if I can just share my screen and then I'll be able to run the slides. Is that okay?
I have a quick question.
Yes, you are.
I'm Jean Remmers. My husband and I, John and Jack.
It's not public comment yet, Jean. You need to wait.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So I just mentioned. Yeah,
sorry about that.
Okay, I assume it's okay for me to proceed now. So I just mentioned briefly the background of Mr. Ciccato and his company. We can go to the next slide, Matt. We had met with the town. We always like to try to meet with town staff prior to doing an application and filing an application. So we did meet with them, informal staff site plan review quite a while ago. And then we went to the process of the project eligibility application with Mass Housing, and I'll have a bit more about that. And then, of course, we're here tonight. And then if we succeed and if you grant us the comprehensive permit, the final step in terms of 40B permitting is final approval from the state agency, Mass Housing, which is just another layer of oversight to make sure that things are done in compliance with the 40B requirements and program. And you can go to the next slide, Matt. Project overview. Before I get to the project overview, I didn't bother with slides for this, but just quickly to go over the eligibility requirements for Chapter 40B. The first is that the applicant be either a public entity, a nonprofit, or a limited dividend organization, which is what private developers are. As shown in the project eligibility letter for Mass Housing, the applicant will sign the regulatory agreement that's required and agrees through that agreement to abide by the limited dividend requirements. So that satisfies that first prong. The second is that the applicant must control the land. And in this case, the applicant, actually owns the property, and we submitted all the supporting documents, the deed, and as the next item will show, the project eligibility letter as part of the package. The final prong, the third prong, is that the project is eligible to receive a subsidy under the 40B programs, and that's what the project eligibility letter from Mass Housing dated May 25th, 2023 shows. The project shall be fundable under a subsidizing agency under a low and moderate income subsidy program, and that has been issued, and that satisfies the third prong. The program, by the way, is the New England Fund program, often referred to as NEF, which is administered by Mass Housing. So those items are the so-called jurisdictional or project eligibility requirements. And then just a brief with the slides. Thank you. That is the correct slide, Matt. Just a brief overview to help you and the public really see some of the details, and then more details will be provided with the site plan and the architecture and the traffic impact report that will be covered by Randy Hunt. So there are going to be 4 buildings. There will be 2-story wood frame buildings. And then one of the buildings also has detached garage with it and two residential units above it. So we have a total of 27 parking spaces for 14 units. The site is 3.95 acres, so the total of 14 units is a really low density, especially for 40B, of just over 3, I think it's 3.95 units per acre. We also have a tot lot to accommodate some kids who will, be living there. There will be a shared enclosed solid waste and recycling dumpster area provided. The next one, Matt will go into more detail, but there'll be an innovative alternative level septic, which is Title V, the wastewater septic system, recognizing that the location is within the town's saltwater estuary protection overlay district. And the stormwater will all be created so that it will be recharged and retained on site. We certainly will have robust landscaping. The next slide, just to give a context, Matt, the aerial photo, it's 900 Old Stage Road. There is a power easement to one side, which we're not building in. It is a single family area, and apropos to the last hearing you had, which was fascinating, and I commend you, we need housing in Hyannis, but we also need housing everywhere in town. And this is a good place for it because it's a large site, and as I say, a relatively low density. It is single family area, but we do think it's well situated. And when we get to the design, I think and hope you'll agree that the design actually doesn't create a big monolithic building. They're very Cape Cod style buildings that I think you will find attractive. Encircled on this slide, the bottom right, there is another multifamily, in fact, built and operated by our housing authority under 40B a number of years ago on Stagecoach Road. And that, as you can see, is within close proximity to our locus. So we think that that's another indication that this is a good area. So those are the main components of the project itself. My overview. Before I turn it over to Matt to go over the site plans, I just do want to say one thing. These units, all 14 units, because it is a rental project under the 40B regulations, all 14 units, even the market rate units, will count on the town subsidized housing inventory, the SHI. So I think that's something that the town, would be pleased with. So thank you for letting me explain those items. And Matt, I think it's time to turn it over to you.
Hi, Matt, if I could break in real quick. Jim wanted to say a few things about the 40B process before the attorney spoke, and I missed that, but I didn't want to break into what he was saying.
I appreciate that, but that's certainly fine. Thank you.
Is that right?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And actually, Peter, as he always does, covered a lot of great background on Mass General Law 40B. I'll just add slightly because I know it's getting late. Anna has provided you with a fact sheet on 40B's, the state's affordable housing zoning law. We did provide the board and also the applicant an early letter when site eligibility was being evaluated, which outlined kind of the highlights on how it does not meet local zoning. As you guys have probably already put it together, this is under Mass General Law, so it doesn't necessarily need to meet all the local standards, but it does need to evaluate how it can meet the standards and ways it's not meeting the standards, as the applicant has provided a waiver list. I will stress to you that obviously this is a large project, and there are a number of waivers, one of which is Board of Health regulations, as Attorney Freeman had mentioned with the septic system. I would recommend seeking and receiving valuable comments from Board of Health prior to engaging in any or rendering any decision. Also, this is a unique project. You guys said that we haven't had a 40B in maybe 7 years or so. So, there are robust findings and conditions that we certainly will offer this board at the subsequent meeting. With that, it is before you because, as Attorney Freeman mentioned, all the reasons why, and that the town of Barnstable is not at our 10% affordable housing. We currently are at 6.78%. So that is one of the requirements in which we are now we are still susceptible to a 40B application, and that's why it's before you this evening, among other reasons why. That's in a nutshell. I will just leave it as, after a review tonight, if you have questions, comments about this project specifically or the process in general, please feel free to reach out to me, stop by the office, give me a call, shoot me an email, and I'm happy to talk to you before a subsequent meeting. Thank you.
Oh, hi, Jim. I have a non-relevant question regarding this project, but do ADRs count into the inventory?
ADUs, yeah, so accessory dwelling units. So we do have an affordable accessory dwelling unit, and those are deed restricted. The accessory dwelling units that are by right are not deed restricted and do not count under the subsidized housing inventory. So it's very strict in terms of deed restrictions at the state level. But as Attorney Freeman mentioned, with rentals, there are some nuances to this program, and if it's a rental program with 25% affordable, even the market rates will count on our subsidized housing inventory. So these 14 would, if the board so chose to move forward with this, would all count on the inventory.
Okay, thank you very much.
And real quick, Jim, when we got you here, how far does that move the needle from 6 point something to what?
Well, I didn't do the exact calculation, but we need 707 units to get to 10%. So 14 not going to get us quite there, but you gotta start somewhere, I guess.
Thank you.
Working at a time. Okay. Matt, would you like to proceed?
Yeah, thank you very much. For the record, Matthew Eddy, professional engineer with Baxter Nye Engineering and Surveying. I will move my presentation along as quickly. I know it's getting late evening here. Just real quick on this slide, as you see outlined here, this is the project site area. Just wanted to kind of point out the existing portion adjacent to Old Stage Road is currently wooded. You can see the large cleared area here, which is for the existing electric easement, which does come through our parcel, and so there's a good portion of the parcel that has been cleared already. The area is not mapped as priority or estimated habitat by natural heritage, and there are no wetland resources on this parcel. With that, just going to the existing condition plan information, as already been stated, the lot area is 3.95 acres. It is all upland. We have about 200 feet of frontage along Old Stage. Again, we're on the north side of Old Stage. This site is not within a state zone 2, which is a wellhead protection area. The topography on the site is fairly level through this area here, and it does have some, and you'll see it on the grading plan, but it does have a moderate to steep slope on the easterly side of the project. Zoning current is RC district. We are in the saltwater estuary protection overlay, as Peter mentioned. This is also in the resource protection overlay district, which just goes to the 2-acre zoning. This lot, though, is not within the groundwater protection and wellhead protection overlays. There's currently no access. This is an undeveloped parcel currently. There is no existing driveways or roads entering the parcel. And we do have public water, natural gas, and then overhead electric and communication lines along our frontage on Old Stage. So with that, going to the proposed layout, this is just an overview of the master plan. Again, just real quick, this area here that you see here, this is the 200-foot swath of the electric easement going through the parcel. You can see it's cleared the back half of the parcel, if you will. The project area is proposed on the southern portion of the parcel adjacent to the Old Stage. Everything that is proposed from structure, paving, et cetera, is outside of the electric easement as required. We have single-family homes to the east. This is just off of this slide. This is Patriot Way. These homes here access Patriot Way. We also there is a open space parcel actually to the south here that I believe is owned by Mass DEP. We have 4 structures being proposed containing the 14 units. These are 4-unit buildings here. This building here is has garages on the first floor and 2 apartment units on the second floor. As Peter noted, with the acreage and the unit count, this equates to only 3.54 units per acre, so the density is not a high density. We obviously have providing a parking lot. I'll get into a little bit more detail, but parking lot for the necessary parking for these units. The tot lot, kind of the picnic area, et cetera, is located here on the northerly end of the project. So just going to a quick zoning aspect, the proposed lot coverage by buildings over the parcel area is approximately 5.2%, which again is a very low percentage. And then the total impervious area over the parcel area of the 3.95 acres is approximately 15%, just under 15%. So again, a very low lot coverage aspect for this project. This is just a zoomed in detail of the layout. Again, here's your 4 buildings. These 3 buildings here are 2 stories each. They contain 4 units each, so you have 12 units here. This structure here has 4 garage bays on the ground level, and then above that are 2 apartment units. As noted previously, there are 6 1-bedroom, 6 2-bedroom, and 2 3-bedrooms proposed in the project. Each of these 3 buildings has a footprint of approximately 2,500 square feet. So again, as Peter pointed out, these structures were designed so to look like and in keeping with the the residential feel, and making them feel like really a kind of a single family home when you look at the architecture, and they're not excessively large. Then again, this building here, again, the four garage bays with the two above, the footprint of this building is approximately 1,400 square feet. You can see the parking lot layout. Per zoning requirement, we've calculated that 23 spaces are required. We are providing 23 spaces. Of those 23, 2 are handicap accessible as required by code. We provided a turnaround area here for deliveries, etc. This is the fenced-in trash enclosure. We also had reviewed this with the fire department as for their access and their turnaround aspect, and they were happy with the layout. The parking, as proposed, meets the parking setbacks around the perimeter of the project. Also, these buildings, the footprints, they also meet the building setback requirements under zoning. We provide an internal pedestrian walkway which connects the units to the parking lot, and then also provides a pathway to the amenity area. This amenity area that Peter referred to as a tot lot is generally going to be some picnic tables, and then some small playground equipment for the residents of the project. And next slide here, the entrance proposed for the project is onto Old Stage Road. The entrance is sited generally in the center of our parcel. The site distance provided for this entrance is well exceeds the requirements needed for safe stopping site distance, and Randy Hart will, I think, probably elaborate on that somewhat when he does his presentation. Okay, so this next sheet here is grading and drainage plan. As you can see, as I had mentioned, these light gray lines that you see here, that represents the existing topography. So you can see this side of the lot has a slope differential of about 10 feet. You then get down to this area here, which is generally level and the low spot of the site. We have worked with the existing topography in siting this to minimize the amount of grading that's needed. We are providing the stormwater management for the project that meets Mass DEP stormwater policy. We're providing, these are surface 4 bays for water quality treatment, then goes to underground stormwater infiltration. And there also are some small infiltration leach pits here for the direct roof runoff from the structures located there. Next slide is really just a blow up of the grading aspect. Happy to go into any detail if you have questions later, but again, you can just kind of see a blow up of here's your 4 bay areas. This is the underground infiltration chambers. The next plan here is the utilities. Again, just typical layout. We're bringing water into the site from the existing water main on Old Stage. All these buildings will have a fire sprinkler as well. We provided a fire hydrant on the site in accordance with and review with the fire department. Electric and communications will be brought into the site underground, so there'll be no new overhead. Again, we have overhead on our side of the road in Old Stage, and we'll come in underground off of that existing overhead. From the septic component, the total flow for the 14 bedrooms is 2,640 gallons per day. As Peter mentioned, we're in the saltwater estuary overlay. We have requested a waiver from that regulation. We are, however, meeting the variance aspects that are allowed under that regulation. We've just asked for a waiver, and Peter could expound on it more if necessary. But the reason just for asking for the waiver is so that it doesn't have to go through a formal Board of Health hearing and a Board of Health approval. But we're going to be happy to to review it with the Board of Health and address any comments that they may have. Based on that regulation, when you put in, we're proposing a innovative alternative technology system for the septic disposal. It's also going to be pressure distribution, disposal into the disposal field as required. Under that saltwater estuary overlay, when you provide an IA, that's the aspect of requesting a variance if we weren't asking for a waiver from that. And basically, it says that if you can show that you're meeting the same environmental protection and meeting 5 parts per million nitrogen on the downstream portion of the lot, that is an approvable item by the Board of Health. And this project, as designed, is meeting that. At the 2,640 gallons per day that we're proposing as our design flow, the actual, based on the acreage that we have, and under that variance condition when you're using an IA system, it actually would allow up to 2,839 gallons per day. So we're actually under that a little bit. We had discussed with the applicant, Dennis Curcado, and he agreed, we're pushing, asking for more bedrooms to get all the way up there. So it's actually, under what could have been allowed potentially as a maximum flow. Just from a real quick layout standpoint, this is just showing the septic footprint. You're basically going to have a septic tank. You then have the innovative alternative technology. You then have a pump chamber, and that pump chamber just pressure doses up to the disposal field that's located off of the end of the parking lot. And with that, the next slide here is the landscaping plan. Again, we've proposed landscaping along the perimeter of the project to help buffer the project from the adjacent residential uses. You can see all of this area here. If you see that kind of squiggly line, this is all existing vegetation and all existing wooded area that is going to be maintained. We will then maintain this area along the property here, but understanding that it's getting, it's narrower in this area. So we have proposed to augment and infill the existing vegetation there with additional evergreen screening trees to help buffer the project from the adjacent lots. Same situation over here on the west side. Again, we have our stormwater floor bays that you're seeing here. We've provided evergreen plantings along the top of these slopes. These are still green areas, but again, just providing more of a vegetative screening. And again, you also, that is, directly adjacent to, which gets off the slide here, but that 200-foot wide utility easement is right here. So this is actually, there are no residential structures in here. They're at least 200 feet away. But we have provided that additional screening. We have also provided interior landscaping for the parking lot, landscape trees, and then also proposing foundation plantings along the base of the buildings. So with that, I am going to turn it over to John Lafayette, the architect on the project. Thank you.
Hi, can people hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, great. So good evening. What struck us right away on this project with the neighborhoods of single family residences, that these should not look like a row of townhouses or a one big building, but rather should feel like a number of individual houses. And so we've designed them in that way. You could see the character of them, that we made them different colors, different, they have different, even though the buildings have similar plans, the expression is a little different with hip roofs and different types of gables and, one with a dormer and that sort of thing. So that was the overall goal in the project. If you want to look at the next slide, I'm trying to remember what's there. So this is seen from the other end. You can see we've got, in some instances, just, a small, roof over the entryway is down at the end there, and these are more like almost like farmers' porches out in front. So we've really sort of change the character of these buildings again to make them a little more individual and feel asymmetric and more like individual homes. So that was the sort of overall architectural theme. And then you can see here, this is the down below are the elevations of just one of the buildings. The others, you could see those in the renderings. They're a little different, but they're typical materials as you would normally see down at the bottom right. You can see there's shingled architectural shingled roofs. We've got dormers and one, those are actually faux dormers. There's no unit up there. But just to give again some variation, there's it's typical hardy plank siding and corner boards, trim around the windows, and so it's it's detailed in a more residential architectural scale than you would see in a larger building that we typically run into. I think that's, again, being late, I could go on for hours, but I won't. But the typical units, you can see they're actually quite generous, and there'll be some nice living spaces for people there, whether they're 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, or 3 bedroom, and they're mixed throughout the building. So the 3 bedroom building, the building with the 3 bedroom units also has 1 bedroom. That particular one is 2 bedrooms, and it's the same on both floors. So that's that gives us a little bit of economy in construction, but it provides really nice living spaces for everybody there. I think that's probably all you need to know at this stage that's going to affect the thought about the building. And then the other building, maybe we should show quickly that one. Just move on to. Yes, this is the smaller building, which has just 2 small 1 bedroom units above. Again, trying to meet different housing demands even in this small project. And we took advantage of, we and tell you the truth, we ran out of water to or sewage capacity. So putting a garage down there actually provides another useful amenity and adds some additional parking spaces to this site. It's the same material as the other building.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So, Randy, you're up now for transportation.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Randy Harding, principal with VHB. We prepared a brief traffic assessment for the project that focused in on 3 things. We took a close look at accident history along Old Stage Road to see if there's anything of concern. We looked at traffic generation for the proposal, and we went out in the field and measured the site distance to ensure that proper sight lines were evaluated. I'll touch on each of those very briefly. Next slide, Matt. So the first thing we did was we pulled accident records from Mass DOT Crash Portal for the most recent 5 years of data that were available. And we looked at the vicinity of where the site driveway was to see if there was any activity that we should be aware of. The portal showed no crashes in that area for the most recent 5 years of review. We also take a look at look for HSIP locations, and you might not know what that is, but we want to see if there's anything in the vicinity of the site that had HSIP designation. And that's HSIP is a highway safety improvement program, and it basically focuses on areas where there's patterns of accidents that happen. And if it's HSIP eligible, there's federal fundings that are available to offset safety concerns. I mean, the good news is we didn't find anything close to this site relative to the HSIP. So I think we're in real good shape from an accident perspective and safety in the area. The next thing we looked at was project traffic generation, and we utilized the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual for that purpose, which is the industry standard. We applied it to the 14 units, and we look at 3 critical areas when we do residential work. We look at the morning and afternoon commuter peak hour period, and we also look at a Saturday midday. And when you use the IT data and apply it to those periods, it showed us we would expect about 6 trips to the site during the morning commuter peak hour, about 7 during the evening commuter peak hour, and 6 on a Saturday. So, really low traffic volume, 1 trip every 6 minutes during the peak hours, be less than that during all other hours of the day. So really, really minor traffic generation is anticipated. Next slide, Matt. And then, as Matt already mentioned, so I'll just tell you again that we exceed all the minimums by a lot. The stopping sight distance and intersection sight distance at the driveway, which is a good thing. This stopping sight distance is the minimum. If you meet that, you're good. But in this case, we meet both, and we actually exceed them. The one recommendation I did make in the report I provided was there's some overgrowth on either side of the driveway that is coming, from trees above or just coming out of the ground. I think that should be cleared and maintained clear, just to ensure that the sight distance is maintained throughout the future. That's just a quick overview. I think I'm tossing it back to Peter at this point.
Thank you, Randy. Good overview. And that does conclude our formal presentation. And I thank Jim, by the way, for his words after my initial remarks. Those comments were helpful, and I agree with them. The thing that also I was going to mention, and so I will, is we have provided, as Jim said, the detailed waiver list. That typically it doesn't make sense to me to go over waivers the very first night, because probably you want to familiarize yourself with things, and we presumably will have another hearing. We're certainly happy to answer questions about waivers if you would like at any time, but I just wanted to mention that they are part of the package. So with that, we say thank you and look forward to questions and working with you to hopefully receive approval. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the board for deliberations. I do note that on the bottom of the staff report that findings and conditions will be discussed later, because this is just considered an initial hearing for the introduction of the project. Is everybody aware of that? Board members? Okay.
Yes, aware. Yep.
So what do we have to discuss?
Yeah, this is Paul. I have one of the letters that we received from an abutter talked about previous dumpings at the site, somewhere on the site, of potentially toxic materials and stuff like that. Are you aware of where that rubble is, and are you going any near it?
We did receive a copy of that letter. Excuse me, one of my audio devices is ringing for some reason, but okay, there, it's better. I hope you didn't hear that. I can hear fine. We did read that letter. We don't have personal knowledge of it. I don't think Mr. Criccato was aware of that either. So no, we don't know where it is. So I really can't say whether the building location. I will say that it's certainly a developer's risk, but before construction takes place, he will at that point, and the bank would require it, undertake a so-called 21E study, phase 1 study. And if it determines that there are anything buried and potential hazardous materials, such as the neighbor stated, then he would have to comply with the appropriate laws. We don't believe that there's contaminated waste, but again, we don't have specific knowledge one way or the other.
Thank you, Attorney Freeman. The other question I have is, Anna, I'd like to see, maybe you can help over the course of time here. I come back to the Tractor Supply Company, which was a hearing that we had a while ago, and their buffer looks terrible now. Half of it's dead. I would like to see some words constructed in here that says that the landowner is required to maintain the buffer they put in, and to not encroach upon the existing buffers after construction. There's a lot of wood. It's a very wooded lot, and I'm sure they're not going to cut down right to the property line. So whatever is existing, I'd like to make sure that whatever existing after construction stays there, and whatever is planted is maintained. Can you help us out at some point here, Anna?
We can add that to a condition.
Okay. The other concern that I have, and I guess is when we look at the Board of Health waiver, and we see you're requesting a waiver of from. And this is in the saltwater estuary. You're proposing a flow of 614 gallons per day. But I'm not sure I understand when it says you do not want to be required to obtain a variance from the BOH. It's if you meet the standard of the gallons per day for the saltwater estuary, why would you need a variance from the Board of Health?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, answer that question. So thank you. Actually, I anticipated that you might ask about that. And because of the nature of 40B, essentially what it means is if it wasn't a 40B, the applicant would be entitled to go to the Board of Health right under their own regulation that's in question. And by meeting the standard that's in that bylaw or regulation, they're eligible, an owner would be eligible for the Board of Health to grant the waiver, rather the variance under their own standard. That doesn't mean they would have to, but for the reasons that Matt explained, it's not in a zone 2 of public water supply. I forget one of the other criteria in terms of public health that we're not in. But because it's 40B, it's one-stop shopping. I had not realized, I've lived in Barnstable for forever, it seems, almost 40 years, done a lot of 40Bs. I did not know that there hasn't been a 40B application before you folks for 7 years. But in any event, it's one-stop shopping. That's another, short-term description of the process. So the whole point is to try to expedite so that applicants don't have to go to the individual local boards. So that's why we are asking for you to waive that regulation instead of having us being required to go to the Board of Health separately to ask them for a variance from their regulation. As Jim said, we fully expect that you would get commentary from them, and we're certainly, as Matt said, interested in what they would say. We think that they understand the situation, but we would work with them and work with you. So I hope that answers your question.
I would propose to Mr. Chairman, I propose to the board that we would that I would like the comments from the Board of Health with respect to the waivers that the applicant is requesting. I don't feel qualified myself to vote on that or to consider it unless we have our town experts comment on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
Okay. And the purpose of this meeting, are we going to continue this to a date certain or?
Yes.
And does the applicant, we'll talk about that later, I guess. But I do have one observation. I have several, but for starters, I know I read in all the material somewhere, and this is the one thing that I can find out, that there's a plan, or there was initially a plan to subdivide the lot into 2 lots. That was from the site plan review last November of 2022. Is that still on the?
Well, I think what you're referring to, and it shows on the plans, I perhaps should have highlighted it for you, but originally this long lot was larger, and roughly a year ago, maybe not quite that long ago, the portion that I believe would be to the southeast was carved off, I believe, through an approval not required plan, not actually a subdivision, but it was eligible to meet the required criteria to be divided off by the planning board as a matter of right. And that is a separate, not part of the locus, a separate, I believe, 2-acre plus single family lot that has been sold off to somebody else. So I believe that's what you're referring to.
Okay, does that A&R plot, does that abut Old Stage Road? I've been looking everywhere. I can't seem to find a definitive site plan.
Matt, you can correct me. I think that's
if I may, I'll share the share the plan again here.
Yeah.
Right here. So, Herb, if you see this was the original. This was I think it was 5.95 acres. So what you were seeing back a year ago, as Peter mentioned, we filed an A&R and it carved off this land area here. This is a separate single-family detached lot that is not part of this project, that has been sold and is not owned by the applicant anymore. And it has both frontage on Patriots Way and it has frontage on this small pipestem area here. What is that? Hitching Post Lane. So that was approved by planning board. It was last January. Its plans recorded, etc. I think the assessor's office has just not caught up with it. It usually takes them about a year, I think, to get their records updated. But that parcel has been carved off via A&R and conveyed out. And
that explains that yellow line. So the yellow line, and then the dashed lines are the power easement, correct? Those two dashed lines.
The dash lines are the power easement, kind of going per
yes, that's
across
correct.
the property.
I must have that in my package somewhere, but I just can't find it. Okay, that clears that up. Since this is going to be continued, I'm sure we can have more questions later. Does anybody have any other questions before we open public comment?
Mr. Chair, if I might, for Attorney Freeman, similar to the Board of Health approvals or waivers you'll be requesting, it'd be useful to know if there are other town departments that, since you're going to be consolidating this under 40B through this board, that we may need to hear from in terms of getting their input. As Paul said, we're not experts, that they're the subject matter experts in these various areas. It'd be good to know that.
Sure, we would welcome that. And, they have already had a first look with the initial plans, and some of the comments wound up being, I think, implemented into some of the design aspects that Matt explained, such as, keeping all the stormwater on site, things like that. So, again, we welcome that, and we know that would be helpful to you.
And the only other comment I had was in one of the charts, I think, Matt, you mentioned the topography. It seemed as if this project will sit sort of above the lines of single family homes to the south. I may be getting my directions wrong. And you weren't contemplating adding any plantings, any protection in that area. I guess I'm thinking of the line of sight. Is this going to sit up above in terms of the neighboring properties?
It's actually going to sit below.
Matt, you're showing a spreadsheet right now.
I am.
Yeah, that's better.
Maybe I read it.
Are you seeing
it slope down?
Are you seeing the plan? Yes, it slopes down. So the elevation down here is around, existing elevation is around 58. It then slopes up about 10 feet, and the elevation up here is about 60. So it actually, these buildings are going to be, kind of, I'll say, nestled into that lower area, and it actually will help. You got the horizontal separation, but then there's also going to be a vertical separation. So our buildings will be lower, and so I think that actually will help with the buffering and so forth.
Thank you for that. I misunderstood. I thought it was sloping down.
Yep.
And the height is also below the maximum. We're not seeking a waiver on the height. They're 2 stories, and they comply with the zoning height maximum. Thank you.
Thank you.
Attorney Freeman, one last question. You mentioned when I was talking about the rubble we had a concerned abutter. You said there was a 21E study. I'm not familiar with. That's a requirement, or what is that?
I misspoke. What I meant to say, I think I said there has not been one yet. 21E refers to the state statute on control and remediation of hazardous contaminated waste. So that's why we call it 21E. And there are engineering firms that specialize in studying by going out there, looking at records and seeing if there's any knowledge of what's been done there in the past. And the banks will, to a virtual certainty, require that that be done before they, finance the project. And the process is, which is why it's called phase one, if the information that was provided, and I say if it's accurate, not because I don't, believe what the neighbor said, it's just that we don't have any knowledge of it. So if under the professional standards, there's reason to think, well, we better do borings to actually investigate the soil, then that would have to be done in the future.
So you're saying I would like it to be done as a requirement, and so we could leave it up to a bank, which may require it, or
it will require it.
Jim, can you help me out here? Can we require this?
Yeah, we can have some further conversation with the applicant. I understand what you're looking for, Paul, in terms of understanding the legacy of that site and if there's any contaminated products there.
There is.
Maybe it's a condition of a 21E. Maybe it could be something, something in between that fully understands that. But we can think about it on the staff side and offer some condition for you.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments? Keeping in mind that we will be continuing this.
Can I ask, Mr. Chairman, can I ask a procedural question? I don't know if you know this already, but just because we haven't seen a 40B in the way this format is, will there be public comment now? And does that public comment stay open moving forward, or how does that work with the?
Correct. We can open public comment today. We just won't close it. So it will be open.
Okay. Just curious. I'm just trying to learn on the, I haven't seen one of these either. So thank you.
I just have to make sure I don't close public comment, because then that will be a problem later.
I believe you can reopen anyway, but that's as the chair.
Yeah, and we agree with that. That's understood.
I think we've closed it before and it's created problems, but I won't do that. So
I would recommend leaving it open, Mr. Chair.
I absolutely will. Speaking of public comment, unless anyone else has some discussion, we can always bring up later. Would anyone from the public like to speak?
Yes.
Okay, please state your name and address.
My husband and I are John and Jean Remmers. We're the public comment letter. I don't have access to it, but I believe everybody does. I sent it to Anna, and I don't know if you'd like to put it up, Anna, or not, but has everybody read our letter? We are the abutters that have been here 46 years. You can certainly feel free to read the letter, but we know, in fact, that the debris from the former Dunphy's Hotel was dumped over there. And I disagree with one of the statements that was read about the landscape. I grew up here, and we have pictures when we built our house 46 years ago, that lot was level. It is level in some areas, sunken in others, and looking from my dining room window, there's several mounds of dirt. Those several mounds of dirt was where things were buried. And the debris I mentioned in the letter to public comment. That's item one that concerns me the greatest. For the 46 years we've been living here, we finally researched all the materials that were used in the 60s when the Dunphy's Hotel was extensively renovated, and they're listed in the comment letter. Also, I have been in touch with Dr. Jonathan Way, who has done all the research on the wildlife, coyotes and deer that frequent this area. The power line easement corridors are where he's done a lot of his studies of tracking deer and coyote. He's also written several books on the coyotes. I'm not opposed to the development. I just don't want what was buried to now be unearthed and to be, as we all know, pollution, radon, and some of the other things that were mentioned. Also, I have not contacted, but in stating in the letter that my husband and I wrote, we were in contact with the power easement company and a Mr. Worthington, at that time had been in correspondence with Mr. Medeiros, who is the dumper and barrier of the debris. Mr. Worthington had looked into further things, which I have mentioned in the letter. And for sake of time, I'm not going to go into it. Certainly feel free to read it. I grew up here. I've been here since I was 3, and I have pictures of Old Stage Road when it was a dirt road when I was growing up. So any questions, feel free to either email or call us, and I can try to be helpful with any information I have. And again, I did state, which is true, our children were fascinated by the dumping that was going on over there. As again stated in our letter, with the front end loaders and the dump trucks, they were just fascinated by with it. So anything I can help you with, feel free.
I appreciate that. I was also fascinated by dump trucks and tractors when I was that age, still am. Anyone else like to speak?
Hi, I'd like to speak.
Hi. State your name and address, please.
Mary Lynch, 28 Patriot Way.
Hi.
I'm just really concerned about the density of this. This is totally out of character for the neighborhood. We live in a single-family neighborhood with farmers' homes built on this street years ago, and the density is just too much for this area. We talk about septic, water, and we're going to throw all this extra people in there, 24 bedrooms. What's the nighttime lighting? I have really concerns about a multi-family property owned by a corporation. I think the land would be better developed into single-family lots. Putting a tot lot next to a transmission wires concerns me. I think it's just a bad idea all around. And some of the principles that Hanson talked about in Hyannis, this is more appropriate right now in Centerville.
Very good.
Where are the affordable units? The 2 over the garage?
They're evenly dispersed. The state agency requires that.
3 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom?
The plans show that. There's 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and 1 bedrooms.
Yeah, I try to pull out on Patriot Way during rush hour. Believe me, I can sit there for 5-10 minutes waiting to take a left-hand turn. So don't tell me it's not going to add anything to the traffic.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate your input.
Yeah,
Would there be anybody else?
Neighborhood.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It just doesn't work for this neighborhood. I mean, there's not even a duplex around here. It just wasn't built for this. It doesn't belong here. Put it somewhere else. It's just a way for this guy to make money off of a 40B.
Thank you. That's exactly the input we're looking for.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hearing or seeing none, I will leave public comment open, and we'll move back to the board for discussion. Does anyone have anything further to say?
Mr. Chair, you might want to just mention that we did receive other public comment, and it is part of the meeting materials.
Okay, we have, this might not be too easy. Let's see, we have public comment from, I'm only as fast as the computer, from a Jeff Greenwood at 944 Old Stage Road, opposed to the project. We have public comment from Jeff Greenwood at 944 Old Stage Road. We have in opposition. We have another one from, bear with me, from Jeff Greenwood in opposition, just with some more concerns. as the Ms. Greenwood was, wait, that was Ms. Remmers who had mentioned similar things about lighting. We have a written response in opposition from the Remmers. And we have an email from Robert J. Taverna, who is at, not quite, he doesn't give the address, but he and his wife are owners at 940 Old Stage Road, and they're in opposition. That's all I have in front of me. So, unless anyone else would like to speak from the public, we can bring it back to the board and leave public comment open for future meetings. Board members? Paul has something to say. Come on.
Well, I'm assuming that are we gonna request input from the Board of Health, comments from them?
Yeah, I think that's one thing that was brought up, that because this is a comprehensive permit, we're basically it. So that needs to be really looked at under a microscope. Anna,
So that's a yes, and Anna or somebody will get that?
Yes, staff will work on that.
We need to make sure that we do get comment from other agencies. I'm not sure if that's under the purview of site plan review or just the planning department. Anna?
I believe it should have been part of site plan review, but I can check.
So it has gone through site plan review, but now with the formal application, I think we would want to just touch base with each of the departments once more. And hearing from your guys' comments, we'll certainly reach out to each of one of the applicable ones and get their comments and bring them back to you.
Okay, and Jim, the only site plan review correspondence I saw was from last November. Is there anything more recent?
I believe that was it.
Yeah, I believe that's the only one.
Good.
Okay. The other thing is we're going to see if we can have worked up something about maintenance of the buffer. And the third thing was I'd like to know more about or have something that or know that there is a requirement for a 21E or whatever is required to find out what's in that dump, if it's appropriate, if it's actually on the construction site. That's all I have.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else? So I guess we move on to address when this will be continued. Somebody needs to actually request that from the applicant side.
Well, yeah, I don't have to formally do it, but yes, happy to. We would ask that you continue this to, if not the next available date, but there's some information to gather. As you asked about, and Jim and Anna have said, you'll ask staff for commentary. So I don't know if it could be heard again in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, but I don't think it needs a lot of time. So I defer to your staff as to, when you think a next hearing date would work.
Yeah, because of the holidays, this is our only meeting in November, and we only have one in December. So I guess it's kind of up to Anna, what you think.
It's January 10th or January 24th.
January 10th would be good. I think I have a scheduled conflict on the 24th.
Again, I wish that could
agreed.
be a public meeting. Oh, pardon?
Never mind.
So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to reconvene this hearing to January 10th.
Second.
Okay, heard a second. All in favor? Herb Bodenseek in favor. Paul Pinard?
In favor.
Mark Hanson,
In favor.
Aaron Webb,
In favor.
and many else.
In favor.
Okay. I guess we will reconvene this matter on January 10th.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Okay, next on the agenda, we have appeal number 2023-035. Hamilton and Lorraine Shepley have petitioned for variance pursuant to 240-13E RF1 Residential District Bulk Regulations, minimum yard setbacks. The petitioners seek a variance to construct a 24 by 36 foot detached garage. Those dimensions have been revised, and I'll discuss that later, but which would result in a 10-foot front yard setback where 30 feet is required. The subject property is located at 21 Forest Street, Hyannis, Mass. As shown in the assessor's map, 266 is parcel 006-002. It's located in the residence B, RB, and the residence F1, RF1 zoning districts. Do we have someone here representing the petitioner?
Yes, good evening.
Assign members, please.
Exactly.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to put it out there that I do business with the applicant, and I'm happy to defer to Denise if unless council feels differently.
Well, I was going to call Denise anyway. Where's my water? Yes, and I was just seeing if that.
Hey, I'm here.
Okay. But unless you think that it would alter your.
I do not. I don't. I just wanted to be fully transparent. Thank you.
Okay, I have no problem with you participating.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to assign myself, Paul, Mark, Aaron, and Denise. So who is representing the petitioner and what they like to?
Good evening.
Kenny.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. For the record, my name is John Kenny. I'm an attorney in the law office in Centerville, and I come before you tonight representing Hamilton and Lorraine Shepley. Most of you know Hamilton as Tony Shepley. Also with me tonight are attorney Pat Nickerson from my office and Matt Eddy, the civil engineer on the project from Baxter Nye Engineering. As you just read in, the property is located at 21 Forest Street in West Hyannisport. It's in the Residence B and RF1 zoning district. And we're asking for a variance to allow us to put a garage into a 30-foot front yard setback, 10 feet from the front property line. I know on initial bluff, it sounds like a lot, but when you hear all the factors involved in this one, I think you'll agree with me that this is a very reasonable case. And but for a couple of changes, this could actually have been done as of right. And I'll get into that in just a moment. The property, the large portion of the property, it's a 1.75 acre parcel. And the first parcel, Lot 1, was created in 1986, and I've attached as Exhibit D a copy of the plan that created Lot 1. Then the second parcel, Parcel B, was created in 1989 and attached to the property as Exhibit E and is shown as Exhibit E. That allowed frontage out to Forest Street and created a second means of access to the property and a second line of frontage and a whole bunch of zoning concerns and really kind of convoluted this site. As I stated, we're in the RB district and the RF1 district. It's split zoned. Currently, the RB district requires 20-foot front yard setback and 10-foot side and rear, and the RF1 is 30 and 15 and 15. The variance conditions and argument under Chapter Chapter 48, Section 10, and Chapter 240, Section 125B1C of our zoning ordinance, you're authorized to grant a variance if you find that owing to circumstances related to soil conditions, shape or topography of such land or structures, especially affecting such land or structures, do not affect in general the zoning district from which it is located. A literal enforcement of the provisions of the zoning ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner, and that desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance. As I stated, the property, the initial lot as shown on Exhibit D was designed to have access off of Oak Street. When Parcel B was established and added to the property, creating frontage on Forest Street, it created a second front yard setback. And that second front yard setback, if we can call up the site plan, it would be helpful. Anna, can you bring the site plan up?
Anna, or?
Yep, 1 minute, it's loading.
Okay.
Great.
Can you
Is
see
there
it?
any way to enlarge that a little? Or?
And if you could go down a little bit so we can see. Yes, thank you.
Okay. There we go. And now you can see there's a.
Hold on.
There you
go. Right where it says 21 Forest Street, you can see there's a line that says 20-foot front building setback. And that was a setback that would have had to be met when the property had frontage only on Oak Street. But then that little triangle, that little rectangular piece that gave frontage onto Forest Street created a second front yard setback. So it turned what should have been a side yard setback into a front yard setback. And so as you go along from where it says 21 Forest Street, you go up to the right, and then it turns down towards the east, south being to the left, north being to the right. It turns towards the bottom of the page, and then it juts in and becomes a 30-foot setback, front yard setback, because we are split zoned.
Wait, Attorney Kenny, you just lost me totally. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Paul, if we stop, I mean, if we go up to the 21 Forest Street, if you see that. No, down.
If I may.
Okay. See where it says 21 Forest Street, 76,250 square feet? That triangle, yeah. Right above that, you'll see it says 20-foot front setback. And you follow that line up, yep, right to there.
Right.
Then down. And then right there is where the Residence F in Residence B district split this lot. So now we jut over, and it's actually a 30-foot setback and goes right down through the proposed location for the garage.
Paul, you're muted.
Are you with me, Paul?
Wait a minute. So the issue you're talking about, the variances from where to where?
Okay. If we can come down to where the garage is, Matt, are you controlling that hand, or is Anna?
No, Anna is. If you'd like, I can share my screen, and it might be easier.
Okay.
If you'd like.
Okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yes.
Yep.
I just have to be given permission saying I can't share.
David?
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
I get it. There we go. Can everybody see the plan now?
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to zoom in here just real quick. What John was just referring to is, you see this line right along here? That's a 20-foot setback. It then goes to the east. This is a 20-foot setback. It hits the zoning line here, which is RB on this side, RF1 on that side. Front setbacks are different in those two zones. So it goes from 20 feet over to here to 30 feet. And it comes all the way down to here, then to a side yard setback. So this lot has two front setbacks. You have this is a front setback requirement here and a front setback requirement here.
Matt, if you can take us a little to the west, up towards the top of it, so we can just show what happened. The access points. Okay. Yep. You can see the property was originally designed to have frontage on Oak Street and use that as the access in and out. And that's where that 20-foot front setback that's near the 21 Forest Street box came into play. Then 4 years later, that little rectangular piece giving access out to Forest Street was added, which created a second front yard setback. So right there, so that was a side yard setback when we had frontage on Oak Street only, is now been converted to a front yard setback. So it's gone from 10 feet in the Residence B and 15 feet in the RF1 to 30 feet in the RF1. So,
yeah, just point out where the setback is, would you?
We did right there.
Okay. So real quick, if I could, Paul.
Okay, so we're
the front setback line right here, and here's the garage being proposed. So the variance request is from this structure here being within this 30-foot front yard setback.
And we've got the 10 foot. Matt, if you could just touch where it shows 10 feet for the setback.
Right here.
Right there, Paul, on both ends. And that's actually to a 2-foot overhang. So the building, base of the building is actually about 12 feet away, but we went to the overhang to be conservative. And so the two different frontages combined with the two different zoning districts. If you look at Exhibit F in our memo, you can see that these two properties, the Shepley properties, are uniquely impacted by the split zoning. If you look at Exhibit F of my memo, it comes right down First Avenue and the zoning line, and it splits the property at 135 Forest Street, which is owned by Lorraine Shepley, one of the applicants, and then right through their home lot. So if the RF1 lot line had just followed along the property lot lines, we wouldn't be split and we wouldn't have a 30-foot setback requirement. We would only have the 20. Further, if we didn't add that parcel B, this would be a side yard setback. We would actually be in compliance with the zoning in the RB district. So the property is uniquely impacted by the combination of the frontage on the two streets, creating two different setbacks in the shape of the lot, which, as my associate pointed out, if you turn the Exhibit A sideways, it looks like a duck. So it's a unique shape impacted by both the two different frontages and the split zoning, which do uniquely impact this lot within these lots within the district. Furthermore, if we go to the south or to the left, Matt, we've got the coastal bank line. We've got the 100-foot inner riparian zone. We've got the 100-foot coastal bank buffer, and then we have the 200-foot outer riparian zone. Those are all basically zones to protect Halls Creek, which is deemed to be a river, and then wetlands in the area, the coastal bank. So the garage is proposed to be out of those areas to protect the resource area. And then finally, we have topographical conditions. The main house is at first floor elevation is at 23.23. The proposed garage floor has a first floor elevation of 13.67. That property drops off a full 10 feet there, and by the time you get back down to the golf course down behind it, it drops all the way down to 7 feet. So to move this over 30 feet or 20 feet or 15 feet foot setback from that front property buffer means we have to cut into that bank significantly. It would require a lot of cutting and filling, create possible erosion problems. And in addition, there's a likelihood or probability that the on-site septic system that's located right there would be compromised by cutting into the bank. So bottom line is, in summary, the circumstances especially affecting the locus, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it's located, are the duck shape of the lot created by the addition of parcel B to the property, which added the frontage on Forest Street, converting a side yard to a front yard setback. 2, the impact of the zoning line delineating the RB and the RF1 districts, cutting right straight through the property. And 3, the drop off in topography from the house down to the proposed garage. There is no other spot on this lot to put this garage. So a literal enforcement of the provisions of the zoning ordinance would involve substantial hardship to the petitioner for that very reason. Due to the unique shape of the property, its topography, the proximity to Halls Creek, the 100-foot inner riparian zone, the 200-foot, the coastal bank, there is no place for the applicant to build this garage other than where we're proposed. And desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance. The intent of the front yard setbacks is basically to create a sense of aesthetic uniformity regarding the placement of structures as they're viewed from a public way. If you look at the property, and you look at Exhibit A in my memorandum that I gave you, it's a overhead photo in color of the property. The proposed garage would be shielded from view by the tree cover of the property at 23 Forest Street. The tree cover in single-family the single-family dwelling located at 135 Forest Street is owned by the applicants. So essentially, nobody's going to see this property. So the 30-foot setback really has no particular meaning. And then finally, Anna, if we can call up the photos that we've submitted. Mr. Shepley took some photos of the immediate area. And many of the homes have 10-foot setbacks. We can just kind of go through those.
I must say, Attorney Kenny, this all made sense. I looked at the site plan. It all made sense until I saw these pictures. So,
well, these pictures are just pictures in the neighborhood within the zoning district.
I'm glad you explained that. I do get the
I couldn't get it either.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they're photos of the neighborhood, basically showing that many of these homes have 10-foot setbacks. So this is not out of character for the neighborhood in general.
Thank you for
explaining. So it's, it sounds like, hey, we're going from 30 feet to 10 feet, and that's a huge request. But as I said, but for the addition of Lot B, and but for the fact that this is dissected by the RB and the RF1 districts, we could have done this as of right if we didn't have the Lot B frontage and we weren't bisected by the RF zoning district line. And finally, the rear setback in the RF district is 15 feet. So the abutting property at 135 Forest Street, owned by the Shepleys, that's their rear lot line or a side lot line. That's only required to have 15 feet, whereas when you cross that lot line, you're required to have 30 feet. The proposed garage, as I stated earlier, is 10 feet from the lot line, measured to the overhang of approximately 2 feet. So in essence, if it was 15 and 15 on each side, we'd be looking for a 3-foot variance. I know it's late. This is a confusing project, but bottom line is, if we didn't have that parcel B and we didn't have the split zoning, this could have been done as of right.
That makes absolute sense to me.
Pardon?
That makes absolute sense to me, believe it or not.
Yeah, I would suggest we meet the conditions for the zoning. We meet the three-prong test. We ask that you vote in favor and be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Can I ask one very quick question? This is probably moot, but so if the legal address was Oak Street, it wouldn't change the condition. You'd still be looking for a variance, correct?
That's correct. Because we have frontage on 2 streets, the street address doesn't determine. It's the fact that we have the frontage on 2 streets.
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing none. Do we have any public comment? Isley?
We do not.
Do I have to close public comment? If we didn't have any? I'm going to move to close public comment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Those in favor, Herb Bodenstein, yes. Paul Pinard,
Yes, in favor.
Mark Hanson,
In favor. Thank you.
Aaron,
I'm in favor. Thanks.
and Denise. I think she's still here. There she is.
Denise, you're muted.
The loud dogs. Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay.
I can make findings if you want to just go forward with this one.
Sure. Is there any? I don't think we have any more discussion.
So you all, you Mark, go for it.
All right, Mark. Thank you.
All right. With regard to variance number 2023-035 Shepley, section 240-13E bulk regulations in the RF1 zoning district, section 2411E bulk regulations in the RB zoning district. Hamilton and Lorraine Shepley petition for variance pursuant to section 240-13E RF1 residential district bulk regulations, minimum yard setbacks. Petitioner seeks to variance to construct a 24 by 60 detached garage with an 8-foot by 16-foot bump out, which result in a 10-foot front yard setback where 30 is required. Subject property is located at 21 Forest Street, Hyannis, Mass. My variance findings are the statutory requirement of MGL Chapter 48, Section 10 for granting a variance is a three-pronged test. Number one, owing to circumstances related to soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located. I find that both the topography of the property, the location of having two front yard setbacks requiring 20-foot front yard setback, as well as a split zone, which then bumps it to a 30-yard setback, shows a hardship in with regard to number one. Number two, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the zoning ordinance would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. It has been proposed and shown that there is no other location based on the split zoning and the required setbacks for this garage to be located without substantial excavation to current grounds or need for additional variances. Number three, desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance. It has been proposed and shown that the abutters are owned by the petitioners and that this is generally a private lot, and it does fall well within the setbacks of similar properties within the area. Those are my findings.
I make a motion to accept Mark's findings.
I second.
Thank you, Aaron. I'll second. All in favor, for Bone's sake? In favor? Paul?
In favor.
Mark?
In favor.
Aaron?
In favor.
And Diane?
Denise? Fine. In favor.
I mean, there is no Diane here.
Yes, I know.
It's just happening again. Okay.
All right. So with regard to the staff report dated October 31st, 2023, revised edition November 6th, 2023, I have suggested variance conditions number 1 through 5. And have you had a chance to look these over, Attorney Kenny? And are they acceptable to your client?
Yes, we have. My client's had an opportunity to review them, and the conditions 1 through 5 are acceptable as stated in the staff report.
Very good. Were there any other comments from the board regarding the variance conditions before we accept?
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, I move to accept the conditions as given on the site plan, the staff report dated October 31st, revised November 6th.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, Herb Bodenstein? In favor, Paul Pinard?
Favor.
Mark Hanson?
In favor.
Aaron Webb?
In favor.
Diane Johnson.
I'm going to kill you later.
In my defense, I have a next door neighbor named Diane Johnson. Indigo.
We're not accepting your defense today.
Oh, guys, it's 10:47. Let's go.
Okay.
All right. I was waiting for that, Paul. Okay, so you have your variance.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much, all. Good night.
Good now.
I just have pieces of paper thrown all over the place here.
Jamie.
First world problems. Let's see. We had something to discuss at the before the conclusion of the meeting, Anna.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, there's the matter 2023-036 Gainey has requested a continuance to December 6th. That needs to be read in the record.
I finally found my last page here. Yes. In the matter of, I'm going to read it into the record first, though. Appeal number 2023-036. John and Elizabeth Gainey, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, have applied for special permit pursuant to 240-94B, non-conforming buildings or structures used as a single and two-family residence. The applicants propose to demolish the existing one-bedroom cottage and patio containing approximately 800 square feet and construct a new cottage and deck containing approximately 918 square feet. The subject property is located in 251 Bay Lane, Centerville, Mass, as shown on Assessor's Map Plan. Excuse me. Assessor's Map 166 is parcel 057. It's located in the residence D1, RD1 zoning districts. The board has been asked to continue this for re-advertisement to December 6, 2023 at 7:01. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Herb Bodensee? Aye. Paul Fenard?
In favor.
Mark Hansen?
In favor.
Aaron Webb? I
In
didn't
favor.
assign members, but Denise? Johnson?
In favor.
And Manny, although he might have left?
He's here.
I'm in favor.
In favor. And if we can leave this just as members not assigned, Anna, that'd be great. And I see Patrick Nickerson. Are you still waiting?
Pat's with my office.
Attorney Kenny, too. You're still here.
Yeah. The Gainey matter was ours as well. And thank you very much for the continuance.
Well, that explains it. Oh, you're welcome. No problem. It's not quite 11 o'clock yet. Do we have any other matters? The Commonwealth of Massachusetts Energy Facilities Siting Board sent a notice of education and public comment hearing regarding Eversource's proposal for electric infrastructure. The Cape Cod sent a cancellation notice for the regularly scheduled meeting on November 9th, 2023. And no, for meetings not reasonably anticipated by the chair. Well, I could bring up the public meetings, but I won't. Upcoming hearings, we have December 6th, 2023, January 10th, 2024, and January 24th, 2024. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, real quick, though, I did want to give this gentleman, Cliff Carroll, a moment. He did sit through it. Again, I don't want to delay any longer, but he does have a quick comment to make.
Oh, yes.
My first comment is I've enjoyed my entire evening with you all. It's been a long one. First of all, Chairman, in reference to the document that you just read by the Energy Facility Siting Board hearing, it's pretty much a notice of a hearing.
Before we start, can you identify yourself and your address? I'm sorry, I don't recognize you.
I'm sorry. My name is Cliff Carroll, and I live in West Barnstable. And the reason I'm on I've been waiting here is your last item on your itinerary tonight was the announcement of the document from the Energy Facility Siting Board. And it's putting you on notice, the chair on notice, that they're looking for some type of comprehensive permit, that they're going to need a zoning variance. They're basically doubling or looking to double the size of the transformer substation on Oak Street in West Barnstable. There are multiple variances. I did send a document over to Anna earlier, but I think I may have been too late in the delivery of it. But the concerns that not only I have, but several people out in this area on this document, I'm just looking for it. They're going or trying to override almost 14 different variances. Where they're trying to expand their site is in actually a residential zone at this time, single family residential zone. They're looking to do a significant amount of tree clearing, which is going to expose this entire transformer substation to the neighborhood that has been established there for a long time. I'm just going to run down these real quick. My main point is whether or not the zoning board is going to be potentially asking staff to go through the variances that they list out that they're going to need in their comprehensive permit and actually make comment on it. The general attitude is they can override us with the Energy Facility Siting Board, but there is also language where the Energy Facility Siting Board encourages them to get input from the local zoning, and then they consider that also. They don't just simply don't want any. But and again, it is so late. I'm going to run down this list very quickly, and there is a copy that I've given to Anna that I could get distributed.
Well, I have a question first. Sure. We're not having a hearing on this now, and I don't know if these comments are appropriate until and if it gets to the zoning board.
Well, the only thing, they put you on notice tonight. It was part of your agenda.
Well, then when it does get to us, then I think it's appropriate to hear your concerns and the rest of what you're going to say. Prior to that, I don't think we can honor this without having the applicant here.
The only thing that I needed to speak to was they've put you on notice that they're having a hearing at the community college on Tuesday night. They don't have the intention of coming in to see you. And my purpose is to make you aware of the 10 variances that they are looking to override using the EFSB out of Boston. And again, it would, if you could, it would only take me, I have them lined up in line. I'm not going to get into super detail in each one, but it would be important that the zoning board be aware of it. The first one is
in 20 seconds or less. I think we know what we need to know. And I'm not very familiar with that site, but I know that about 10 or 15 years ago, it was very contentious. And when the time comes for it to be before us, we will most certainly address it. But I think what you've said is great right now, but thank you very much.
I would like to be able to at least list the 10 variances. This is their list of variances they're looking for.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary. I'm going to move to convene right now. Do I have a second?
Mr. Carroll, if you've submitted them to Anna, she can then share them with us and for our review, and we can, and then, be ready to go on the 14th.
I've also waited, I think, 3 hours here along with you folks. If I could just touch.
Okay, go ahead. Just the numbers and the dates, though, please.
Sure.
I don't want to hear the descriptions.
All right. I'll list the number and the variance. I'll just put it that way. So it's 240, and you don't have to write this down because I did give a graph of this. Section 240, which is a residential zone that they're expanding.
No, just the variance year and variance number, please.
That's it, 240-7A. That's the
No. The variance will have a date like 1999, and then it'll have a number.
I don't think they have not gotten to that point because that's going to happen on Tuesday at the Community College Energy Facility Siting Board hearing.
But Mr. Chairman, this is totally inappropriate.
Well,
I'm trying to be nice and diplomatic and respectful, but
okay.
There's no information that we need from you at this time.
This starts to get into open meeting law issues here.
Yes, we really need to
We
snuff
can't.
this right now, please. And this is not on our agenda.
We can't legitimately talk about this. The second we do this, we put
There you
ourselves at
go.
risk.
Thank you, Mark. Yep. So do I hear a second on adjournment?
Yes, but I'll Paul second.
Okay. Per Bodenseek, I'm in favor. Paul?
In favor.
Mark?
In favor.
Aaron?
In favor.
Denise?
She's gone.
I don't blame her. And Manny?
In favor.
Okay. Good night, everybody.